We are back. We
Hey.
finished Foundation Book 3, which is called Second Foundation. Just to throw you off.
For the record,
Yeah.
I finished it first.
Did you?
Yeah.
You read it and you finished it?
You kept asking me last night if I was finished it, and I kept saying
Oh, yeah, you said I'm not
technically
gonna-
not, and it was only because at the end of the Kindle version,
Uh-huh.
there's like a summary of every book, including even the next two,
What?
which I didn't read.
That's weird. I hope
So technically,
it's a spoiler-free
the book's at
summary.
like 96%.
that's funny.
But yeah, I did finish the actual book before you did,
Okay.
and I was just trying to be like,
yeah.
I
Cryptic. You're trying to be a second foundationer.
because I'm not a good liar. So I was like,
Get back to first foundation.
if he knows I finished the book, he's gonna probe me. That sounded wrong.
Not a lot of probing going on these days. Post baby. I think the gray aliens are getting more. I listened to it in bed and then fell asleep. Like literally, I was like, I think I'm close to done. And we listened to it this morning, and we're all excited. And I literally was only like, I don't know, a minute. I fell asleep at the last minute. But we listened to it again this morning. We are done. It is great. You said it's your favorite of the three so far, right?
This was my favorite. I feel like it ended so great.
Mm-hmm.
Like it. Where were we? It was in one of these talks where we actually talk about how it feels like it's amping up.
Yeah, yeah. It's the pacing picks up, kind of like what you thought with the Stephen King book there.
Yeah, where the third one is just like more momentum.
Yeah, just fast. So I guess let's just jump into where we left off, or bring it up to the where she's escaping from Calgan, our girl, Arcadia, and she's escaping from Calgan, and she runs into
Mm.
this very simple farmer couple.
Mama and Papa.
Mama and Papa.
What's his name? Pemer.
Oh my God! Yeah, I had it right here.
Pemer Pelver.
Pemer pelvis. Let me pull it up. I got it right here. His name is Pulver, but it's two P's because Asimov doesn't have the best naming. Whatever, it's Palver. Point is, they really are described as just picture like Wisconsin cheese couple or something
He
like that.
literally is like, Mama. I actually, man, I had it highlighted.
Mama.
The description of him, but he's just described as this pudgy,
Mm-hmm.
ruddy, just like plump dude with a civilian haircut.
Yeah, just even like you said, like a little belly, just a little farmer man, just worrying about nothing because they live on Trantor, right?
Yeah, they live on Trantor,
Which
and
was the capital.
so Lady Kalia was like, "Go back home, warn your people that war is coming.
Yeah.
Also, I need you to leave because Stetton wants to have sex with you, and I don't want that.
Yeah.
That would not be good for me." So,
Which is part of her convenient way to like hide her intention, like make it seem personal and vain. Like I wish, it really is just that.
I remember when Stetton found me at 16.
Yeah.
I can't have you walking
I'm
in
saying
on
she doesn't
my,
really feel that. She's
my
just.
turf. No, she doesn't. She's like, actually, like, I'm a secret second foundationer. I need you to get the hell out of here and follow the plan.
I love how you're reading it on the audiobook and you're over here with your own voices. You got a whole lineup over there.
Your people don't have voices?
Yeah, but I pay for them. $15. Use the link in the description. Free credit. Yeah, I don't think we have that. Did that guy just poop out a hand grenade? Yes. So the lady that was part of the Stetton, the wannabe next emperor of the whole galaxy.
They describe her as fat and dumb.
Yeah, and she was actually a second foundationer. Our girl Arcady can detect it. There's just a glint in the eye,
She
just
saw a
something threw her
glint in her
off. She
eye.
runs away. She runs into our farmer folk as she's trying to flee, and they help her get past. Of course, a cop runs into them and asks them all about their immigration papers and why isn't she all listed with them?
No,
like, oh, well, we
wait,
met him
it's
there.
not just that. It's not just that.
Hmm.
I would like to backtrack just a second.
Do it.
They literally hear across the speakers of the like train station,
Mm-hmm.
like, "Hey everybody, we're looking for a dangerous fugitive.
Yeah.
So we're not gonna let anyone leave the port, and we're gonna be dropping the grid.
Drop the grid.
You remember the grid?
Yeah.
It's literally like a big electric grid.
Yeah.
And it breaks all this space up into like, I think it was like 100,
feet.
I forgot how many feet each grid box is, but like you can watch the grid is like dropping, and it's supposed to be psychologically.
It just leaves you in place like you're in a little
If
chessboard.
you
Don't
cross
step out.
the lines, like the alarms go off, and you're clearly you're suspect.
Super sus, bro.
Sus.
Mad sus.
As the kids say these days.
Asimov is gonna zombie strangle us coming out of his grave.
What have you done?
Did you just Gen Z my fucking...
I trusted you with my work.
Yeah, really. So yeah, they're stuck in the grid. The guys are checking papers. Y'all papers,
as the grid
please?
is dropping, Mama, or Miss Palmer.
Mama Palmer.
She's like, come with me. We're going to go to the ladies' room.
Come on now,
So she
honey.
grabs Arcadia, and they run to the bathroom. And then it makes it seem like, oh, this is going to be fine, because the cop comes up to Mr. Palmer, and he's like, where's your wife? And he's like, oh, she went to the bathroom. And he's like, another woman in the bathroom.
The old ball and chain,
You don't
huh?
say.
So anyways, let us off the hook.
No, literally the cop's like, another one in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Great. But he's like, oh, and is anyone else with you? Mr. Palmer's like, oh, my niece, Arcadia Palmer. So he's
But
like,
like,
all right,
why
well,
isn't she listed on the itinerary with you guys? Like, oh, because
she
we
came
met.
separate from us,
Yeah.
but we're all going back home together.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, all right, well, we got to see them. So they actually wait. The cops go and, like, escort them from the bathroom back to the grid. So the bathroom didn't work. It's
Yeah.
like the grid just needs to be mentioned because it's a very Second Foundation thing. This idea of, because a bunch of people talk about how the Second Foundation uses more psychological stuff, whereas First Foundation could physically do things like create stun guns and stuff like that. The Second Foundation, to control people, tends to use a lot of like mental games. So like the grid coming down slowly, it's just another way. Like if you were a fugitive and they were after you, that grid coming down makes you nervous. Makes everybody nervous.
Yeah.
But they escort them back. They actually look at the papers because Mr. Palmer gives this whole like, I don't have to give you the papers. I'm a cooperative from Trantor, and I have political immunity, and da-da-da-da.
Giant farming co-ops.
Yeah, and they're like, we don't care, we got orders. So he technically has Arcadia give him the papers so that he can give them to the cop, and like folds a $500 bill in the papers and gives it to them. And he's like, all right, everything's in order, you guys can go. We have to continue looking for the fugitive.
Yeah.
And so they're able to get on the spaceship and leave.
They're
still called spaceships, right? Like, okay. I don't know why.
They're called warp ships.
No,
I mean,
but
sci-fi's make up all kinds of funny, unnecessary
that and
jargon
like,
sometimes.
Between that and like the fact that we do Star Wars lore on the side.
Oh
like,
yeah.
They're still just called spaceships, right? Nobody's gonna be like, they're technically called.
They're not spaceships. They're actually blurred.
So, they hop on the spaceship, and it's once they're actually, she feels that they've gotten a decent distance away, and no one's gonna stop the ship, or have them turn around, or have her arrested mid-flight, that Arcadia's like, how did you do that? And he's like, oh, it's elementary, my dear.
Bribery,
I slipped her a $500 bill.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And she's like,
but what if they turned us in?
Yeah, like, what if you would have taken the bribe?
As
and
arrested for a bribe. But
and on top of that, arrested, like, added the bribery thing to it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, now they're even another charge.
Yeah. And he was like, nah, you don't understand people the way I understand people. These people are so poor, and that $500 bill is so much.
Yeah. And he did write this in the 50s, 40s.
So she's like,
so maybe like a couple $1,000. Like, come on.
And, I mean, you could say, like, because he's a political guy and been around the planets and stuff, maybe he does know these people well enough to know that $500 to a measly lieutenant would be good enough.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. I mean, that makes sense, even if you don't know. So it's a very plausible excuse. And they make it to farmland.
It's Friday, so I'm in a mood.
That's good.
Oh,
I just saw you got chopped down. Oh, I took one. So they make it to farmland,
They make
right?
it to Trantor, and
Yeah.
so that's where she stays. And I think it's like 3 months
Which
she's
just
hanging out with them.
For a
and
reminder, I know I did get the vibe it was for a while.
they just like adopt her,
Uh-huh.
and they feed her. And she talks about how on Trantor, like all the buildings, well,
Mhm.
not all, but like a bunch of the buildings have fallen apart and or been removed because they sold. So the actual planet of Trantor originally, when you first get to know it, if you weren't here for talk 1, it was this big metal city, like
Yeah.
it inspired Coruscant on Star Wars.
Mhm.
But
the
it's
capital of the Foundation. I mean,
Yeah.
of the Empire, of the galaxy-spanning empire.
the administrative heart
Yeah.
of the empirical galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a giant city that was the size of a planet with, 4 billion people or some crazy number.
Probably some comically low number.
Comically low for us.
Yeah, exactly.
Or 400
But even Star
billion,
Wars,
I don't know.
it's like it should be a lot more people.
But the planet had, it was all metal.
Metal, mate.
Metal.
She got
It
a
was all
fucking
metal.
British audio
Um,
narrator. Got the
In my
South Wales.
mind.
Yeah.
It was all metal, and the civilians. There was so much metal, and the buildings were so
don't see the
large
sky,
and maze-like
Mhm.
that they never saw the sky, like you said.
Mhm.
And when they did see the sky, like they would take 5-year-olds out there to like see the sky at least once a year because they felt like that was necessary, and they would scream their heads off because they were like terrified.
Mhm. The big blue demon.
So that's to paint a picture of what it was like. So when the Empire got sacked in the Great Sack of I don't know what year,
Mhm.
in order to survive, the few people that were still there, they started selling off giant chunks of metal. And in the process of selling off the metal, they also exposed the land that was under Trantor. They basically worked the land, and now it's a farming planet.
Yeah, so this giant Coruscant turned into this giant city, planet-sized city is now big old patches and spaces of farmland, and the whole stripping of the buildings is a reference to what happened all throughout, like I said, it's the fall of Rome, happened all throughout Europe, everywhere really, that big empires fall, that the people at the time don't look at them as these impressive relics of history, they're just the shit they grew up
we
with.
gotta sell this shit.
Yeah. So there's tons of stripped marble plating, and I always laugh at, like, that means that normal little simple dwellings just had some stripped off, the nice marble exterior on, like, some little hut.
Yeah, whatever.
I'm thinking of, I think they did this in England a lot.
So
So that's a pretty funny look.
So there is a very cool scene where Arcadia like runs off, and like there are still a few metal spires that exist, and then there's the library. But these like metal spires and these metal parts of the city are kind of like ghost towns, and you're not really supposed to be like going in there and entering. It's kind of spooky.
Mm-hmm.
So she like there is a whole little paragraph where she like runs in there, and like she runs into the metal, and then she like runs back.
Yeah. I don't know if you wanted to dwell, like, but where the old, like you said, the universities were still, like, they looked great, right?
Yeah, well, the library was never touched, and the university was never
Yeah.
touched. But there are spots that were just random spires.
Yeah, it's not only there.
Yeah, but those were actually still kind of,
But
those
where
are
Harry
specifically
Seldon
not
used
touched.
to work is still looks like prime imperial glory. It's not been ransacked or scrapped. And like you said, so that's also our second time where you get the spooky vibe. Because on Caligan with the mules castle, right? You get this whole feeling that the locals just were spooked. There's all this superstitious they kept out of it. It was too freaky. What you looking for when she meets with the family?
I actually found where she's like hanging out with them. But it's just like so she's like, I found the quotes I have from when she leaves and she escapes.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes into the war. So.
Oh yeah. It's not that it's not there for super long.
No, it's like 3 months or something that she's with them.
Yeah.
When we get to as I scroll through, I'll find it.
Yeah. But then Pawpaw, the the simple farmer dad.
Well, I guess before we jump into that, so while she's escaping, a war is kicked off between Calgon and the Foundation, First Foundation. Because what happened was, if anyone was here for the previous talk, Stettin, the Lord of Calgon, decided to send some ships out in what he called war games.
Yeah.
But basically, while they were out there, they decided to... He decides to actually go to war with the Foundation. And his men find... I think it was like a trading ship, but it's a Foundation ship called the Harbor Mallow.
Yeah. Named after,
Yeah, it's named after Mallow.
Yeah.
And they actually destroy it. It's like incinerated. So, at hearing that, the Foundation obviously is like
freaking the flip flop out.
Nobody's supposed to do that.
Yeah.
So, officially, that's like the day that they kind of like go into war. Calgon and the Foundation. So this war goes on where Calgon. It's really cool because in this time, Dr. Durrell, Arcadia's dad, has been enlisted into like a research type position. I forgot the exact name, but he's basically like going to be doing research and working on defensive stuff. And Semic, I think, the older gentleman that's with them as part of the party of 5.
Yeah, their little conspirator. They're conspirators.
He's the one that they're always like, my brain is old and I don't know.
Yeah, he was insecure
I don't know if
about
I'm
getting brain
any
scanned.
good anymore.
Yeah.
They start secretly working together. So he starts working on something, and like he actually has Semic do a bunch of shit, and he's like, can you do this? And he's like, I've never bought that many relays in my life. And he's like, yeah, but we're at war, so like nobody's gonna really notice. They won't think that's suspect. You can do it. And so he just starts working on a secret project, and he's only telling Semic parts of what he's doing.
Yeah.
So that's happening. The war's happening. There's a whole scene where the mayor calls Dr. Durrell into his office because they're looking at a map. So this map is like the Foundation is in yellow, and Calgon, or what they call the first... Do they still call it first
first speaker?
First civilization? No. The mules like...
first citizen.
First citizen, there we go.
Yeah.
The first citizen.
Because you get the first speaker at Second Empire.
Yeah. But basically there's like a spiral. This map of the universe is like a spiral. And the yellow parts are Foundation, and the red parts are Calgon or the Mule or First Citizen. And they describe it as like the Foundation being a fist and the mules land like surrounding them. So the mules basically like mirror, it's like a mirror of what's happening over there, looking at the same map. So where the Foundation guys are like nervous, the mule is smiling, because he feels like...
Not the mule.
I mean, not the mule, Stettin.
Yeah.
My bad.
No,
My bad. Stettin's smiling because he feels like he has to have the upper hand. He's got the stronger army, like the stronger navy. He has the high ground.
Yeah. He has the tactical high ground.
What could go wrong? But literally his first advisor is like, his first minister, I think his name is. He's like, this is a bad idea.
It's a trap.
It's a trap. Literally, he's like, it's a trap. No one wins against the Foundation.
Yeah.
I don't know why you want to do this so bad.
Yeah. I feel a weird push in my head. What could it be?
What could it be?
Yeah, these telepathic secret society maniacs that push me.
So they go to war. There's like the Foundation's losing ships, but they're winning. Things are looking bad. Calgon looks like the planet Calgon looks like it's gonna kind of like do this big push. It looks like
Yeah.
they're kind of winning a lot of battles. Foundation's losing a lot of ships. But the first minister had warned them, like, if it takes 6 months to us to make progress,
Yeah.
in those 6 months, the Foundation's going to replenish their resources, and we're just going to eat through ours.
Yeah.
Like,
They're gonna get
I don't think you know what
outproduced.
you're doing.
Very America
But
World War
Stetton
II.
was like, nah, this is going to be fine.
Yeah.
You're being silly and superstitious.
Mhm.
Especially because, so Stetton also had, still with him, Moon.
Yeah.
Of course, he's like Star Wars Moon.
I no, it's two N's. No, yeah, it's not M-U-U-N. It's Mun.
Oh, Mun.
Yeah.
All right, so Mun,
You've been seeing him as a Plagueis the whole
I
time.
actually have.
Mun.
So he's been still working with Stetton. Remember, I don't know if you were here, but he's been held hostage by Stetton. And Stetton's been using him to basically research whether the Second Foundation exists and whether he has a right, or whether he's going to be able to actually beat the First Foundation. Because the idea is that if the Second Foundation exists, it'll always protect First Foundation.
Yeah, they really does a great quote. I don't know if you're gonna get to that, but where he literally admits, we go back and forth where Second Foundation people are explaining that they're worried that they're going to become too complacent, and you literally hear one of the officers saying that from the First Foundation officers, like, I mean,
a bunch of people.
they'll
like,
step in and save us.
everything from Dr. Durrell's housemaid, like the housekeeper, to like the random soldiers, to their, like, I think we literally have a scene because one of the other people that's part of this conspiracy group is, sorry, just checking on the baby, is this guy that he was a reporter, and he got in trouble with the government because he was basically like out there reporting. Yeah, it is raining.
I know, it is pouring rain here.
He was reporting on stuff that they didn't want him reporting on.
Oh no.
I don't remember the exact what it was, but he basically got taken off the air. I think because he was talking shit about Second Foundation or something.
Yeah, that's right. That was such a funny little thing. I forgot all about that. So you said that. I was like, I wonder who he was referencing, Asimov, like a contemporary rallying against somebody on the radio. Like, I don't know why it's naive, but I just kind of didn't think of that as a thing back then. Like, I think of modern internet people that, are controversial and get canceled for rallying, for saying things. But I guess there must have been somebody like that during the 40s, probably World War II.
He got taken off the air, but he's been brought back on the air because by popular demand and for morale, they could use him. So he's now doing reporting on the war, and he's talking to this like soldier guy, and I'm pretty sure the soldier guy says, like,
soldier guy.
Hi to my wife and daughter, and don't worry, like, we have to win because Second Foundation will save us. I'm pretty sure, right?
It's a perversion of a lot of Christians, like I was saying, that you'll see memes and stuff like Christ has already won. So Asimov is playing with that, like they've already won with the Selden plan. They feel like they can't go wrong. They can live according to the plan and get out. And then you got this second element with Second Foundation where they literally think that there's this secret society that's going to jump in and save them. Like, the rules, they got a little daddy like is just going to come in and fix everything, even if they get in trouble.
So anyway, the war is happening.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I was looking for this quote. Everyone's kind of like you're saying, they have this idea that Second Foundation will save them anyway.
Yeah.
But
no.
Dr. Durrell is visited while he's working on his secret thing. He's visited by Anthor, who's like, "Hey, we have word that your daughter's okay."
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "What?"
Yeah.
Because and he's actually been struggling, Dr. Durrell. He been struggling because he's worried about his daughter, but he's also trying to focus.
Hold on, before we cast it up, I was telling her that there was such a cute part. You read the part. I was a little bit ahead of her for once in my life in reading, and the part with the dates.
Yeah,
like where it's
I actually have a bunch of that highlighted.
Okay, if you want to get to that, you can keep the narrative. I just didn't want to forget. It was very cute, and he loves his daughter because this guy has to act tough and act like it's not bothering him because he doesn't know
They talk about
what Second Foundation knows.
they're talking about like when the war started and how the years are calculated and how it's all like all associated to like 365, which may be because of the original.
I got it. That
you do.
it's with Asimov, it's great because when he's writing serially like this, one of the most pleasant things about reading Asimov is that there's not such a long, you don't have to wait so long for a payoff. And that might seem like a critique or it's too simple, but one of the things where you start, when you read them enough, you start to get used to like, all right, there's a reason for this. So just randomly, the chapter's explaining like how they used to calculate dates back in the Empire times. And like you said, there was just a convention, a norm of like 365 days. Nobody knows why. Some people think X, Y, Z reasons. And then there's another date. This is from the Mule, and these people use that date. And you're like, where's he going with this? What is going on here? And then it says, I forget how long, but it's like, but all that mattered to him was that it was...
I got it. Yet to Dr. Durrell, it was none of these at all. It was simply and quite precisely the 32nd day since Arcadia had left Terminus.
Yeah. That was very cute.
I got it for you.
Thank you. I was like, but that's what I mean by real Asimov fans. Like, you get a hunch like, all right, there's a reason why we're going on this weird tangent about dating systems. What is he getting at? He's just trying to show that the dad really was, that was his whole world because the wife is dead.
It was a cute way to paint that.
Yeah.
Like,
because the other character picks on him, like, do you not care about her? Like, what the fuck? He's acting like so chill, like, yeah, my daughter ran off and is fucking traveling the galaxy at a time of war.
This kind of like
she's lost in the galaxy.
Straight face, like if nothing is happening, because he knows that if he brings too much attention to it, it could endanger her and Homir and everyone else and the conspirators. So he's like having to put on.
Yeah, have to look like it wasn't some, that they're up to something. It's just a normal trip.
He's terrified.
She's just on vacation during Galactic War.
Oh, and of course, and then on top of that, she's happens to be on vacation where the war kicks off.
Yeah.
Great.
And trying to make it through it.
And he's supposed to not react.
Where are you at? I just want to make sure when she leaves the farmer folks.
Well, not yet.
Yeah, okay.
What's going to happen is that before we get back to her, Dr. Durrell is going to be visited by Anthor while he's working on this super secret thing, and he's like, shh, we can't tell anybody, including that. Because Anthor shows up with a policeman, and he's like, who's this guy? And he's like, this is the lieutenant from Calgon. And he's like, why are you bringing me this guy, like, in here? And, like,
jabroni.
This seems, and, like, in the middle of war, like, this is...
Yeah.
Sus.
From the enemy world.
And he's like, I'm bringing him. Relax. Because he was the last man to see your daughter that we know of. He's like, what? What? And he's like, what do you mean? And he's like, I was the one. So he's the lieutenant that takes her papers.
Yeah.
And it turns out that he was technically one of the conspirators, like, allies. I'm like, this is all very fishy.
Yeah, you were super suspicious.
I'm suspect of all of this bullshit. You're gonna tell me that of all the police on all of the planet, the one lieutenant that happens to be in line with conspirators is gonna find her.
Yeah.
And he's like,
their ally. How many cops are out there? But their ally runs into.
Yeah. Just it don't make sense.
Into her on Calgon.
So, he speaks to them and he's like, look, I'm one of you guys. The guy slipped me a $500 bill, which I conveniently kept. Yeah. And it's probably why he thinks that that's the reason that they got to escape.
Yeah, he's like, I played along.
I was one of you guys. And then Anthor's like, actually, Durrell, actually, the truth is that he's been tampered with. Like, we were meant to think that it's because he's one of us. But the truth is that he was tampered with, and I can prove it. And that means that there was someone on Calgon, a second Foundationer, that helped her get away. Yeah. I'm like...
Yeah, how would he know that? Like, what makes him think that?
I do have it. Yeah. In the first place, Lieutenant Dirge is one of us. He was born on Calgon, but his father was a Foundation man. brought to that planet in the service of the mule. I answer for the lieutenant's loyalty to the Foundation. And then... Where is it? Oh no, I hate this.
I know,
way
you
it
gotta get you a
scrolls.
bigger or something.
No,
A
this
lappy
is
top.
good.
I know.
I could have sworn I had it, but anyway, he admits that he was probably tampered with.
But why did he think that? I don't remember why he thought he was tampered with. The police guy. Their police ally.
I forgot. It's because he goes home with him. Because I think he got his brain wave thing.
Yeah. They did the brainwave thing, and it shows tampering, which is a pretty clever way to, without spoiling the ending just yet. So, yeah, I guess that's all it was. They just saw the tampering.
That or I think the logic, they start to realize the logic. The intricate act of luring my daughter halfway across the galaxy cannot be meant to make me stay where I am, since I would most certainly have stayed if they had done nothing. It can only be to make me move, and so I will stay, because Anthor's trying to tell him, like, you should go to Trantor.
To Trantor or to Calgon?
No, Anthor is
Yeah.
like, Arcadia's on Trantor, because they find out through this policeman that this nice couple, perfectly harmless. What's your guy that you like, the screen?
Oh, barely an inconvenience? Yeah.
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 That they've taken her to Trantor.
Yeah.
That's where she was going, because he looked at her papers, so it's not like a secret.
Yeah.
So they know she's on Trantor, and Anthor's trying to tell him, he's like, you should go get her, because you haven't been yourself. Ever since she's been in danger and away from you, you've been like, we talk to you, and you're like here, not there.
Yeah.
You don't hear when we're like saying things. You just kind of like.
You can just tell he's distant. He's distracted. He
So
needs a Snickers.
that was when
You're not
Dr.
yourself when your
Durrell
daughter's
responded
lost
with
in the
that.
galaxy during war.
Yeah. You're not yourself when your daughter's missing.
Yeah. And the only family member you have left is lost at sea.
And also 14.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's when Dr. Durrell is like, no, I'm going to stay. And he's like, I really want to go. Don't get me wrong.
And just because
I'm dying to go.
yeah.
But they are probably...
he knows
it's
Second
true-
Foundation must be trying to get him to move for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So, the only thing that he probably should do is not fall for their trap. Don't move.
It comes out later, but we'll get there.
But go, yeah.
So they don't go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The dad decides to stay on Terminus, to stay on the Foundation world, and not to move. And I love his little rant too. He's like, "Who can we could sit here and play double. Well, actually, they knew you would think that, so you should do this."
I did find where they're starting to logic it out.
Okay.
Because they find out that that Arcadia had met with the lady Kalia, that Homir had been refused, and then suddenly this refusal was suddenly abrogated after Arcadia had spoken to Lady Kalia, the first citizen's very good friend. And take Lady Kalia herself. She not only remains unreplaced, but is not only able to mediate the Lord's refusal to Mun in an acceptance, but can even engineer Arcadia's escape openly, because guards had seen them escaping. So, like, technically she should have been punished, but she remains unpunished. Arcadia's escape was arranged. With this addition, that Arcadia must have known it was arranged, that Arcadia, the bright little girl who saw cabals everywhere, saw this one and followed her own type of reasoning. She was searched for and found, but deliberately allowed to slip away by Dirge. By Dirge, do you understand? By who was that? But how was that? Because he was our man, but how did they know that? Surely they could not have been counting on him to be a traitor, eh, Doc? He is controlled. Exactly. He allowed Arcadia to escape not because he was our man, but because he was the Second Foundation's. So that's where they're logicking this out.
Yeah.
Logicking being a word.
It's all good.
Will you follow your daughter's lead and move to Trantor?
Yeah.
He says no, and then he tells him, Dr. Durrell, you are not as intelligent as your daughter. I wonder how far you can be trusted.
Which is a really funny little outburst, little hysteric, which felt strange to me. So that was, another clue that we'll get to.
So that's when we basically jump back to the war. But that conversation for me was like uber importante.
Uber super duper importante.
Super importante.
Why?
Because I already did not trust Anthor.
Yeah.
I
Why
did
did you
not
not trust him from the beginning? You told me this morning. I forgot.
I didn't trust him from the beginning because I felt it was too on the nose that this kid comes out of nowhere
Mm-hmm.
and like
We all
knows
come
all
from
this
somewhere,
brainy
man.
stuff, and like I don't know, it was just too pretty. Like, hey, I'm coming from this old friend,
Yeah.
and then later you find
let's
out that
do brain scans on everybody.
well, not just that, like
The
you
weirdest guy at the party.
I'm basically like here. All right, because like this friend that they used to collect brain scans with
Mm-hmm.
that worked at the university
I was
that
gonna say,
they had a falling
for a
out
living, they're professors. They're not just
Yeah.
going around.
with. Well, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Him, Dr. Durrell, and Khalees, the guy that sent this kid, supposedly had a falling out,
Mm-hmm.
which I didn't know of. But supposedly Khalees sends this kid's brain scan to him and his like resume, and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna send you my most star pupil to join you in your conspiracy group."
Mm-hmm.
Sus.
So yeah, you were just
Then he shows up through a window.
in the weirdest
Takes way too much interest in my kid. Sus.
way. Yeah.
Then basically helps host the meeting, has everyone scan brains, and it's just everything is just sus from the
Mhm.
beginning.
We need a sus counter between sardonic and sus. I don't know if I'm gonna make it.
Nope. Oh,
He
I
says-
highlighted
yeah,
every
that's right.
sardonic towards the
Oh
end
my
because
God, we'll get-
towards the end of the
please
book there
don't
was
forget
like
that. We'll
30,000
continue our narrative.
sardonics.
Yeah.
And I just thought I needed to because it was
'Cause
too
if
funny.
You guys been listening. We've been making fun of. There was literally a time I bust out laughing because I think it was only a couple paragraphs apart where he says sardonically. Anyways, so yeah, that's what tipped you off. That conversation is happening while Arcadia
It
is
was
with her
something
former
else.
friends.
Also, but
Yeah.
dang it. There was other things
mean, it's
about
not-
him that tipped me off.
Yeah.
But-
But like I said, I really do think these are middle school level readings. It's not a critique. It's beautiful. It's great deep ideas.
I mean, did you trust him from the beginning?
I just wasn't critically thinking like that. I don't know. I'll just say it, but I'm like, I don't know. I wasn't like trying to figure out who's who and whatever.
I wasn't
just kinda
either. I
reading it.
just immediately my mind was like red flags everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like when you go on a date and you're like, oh, this isn't gonna work out.
Yeah.
Like you're even waiting for the table and you're like, yeah. I wonder if I should have someone call me and be like, your grandma died.
No, I gotta go.
Bail.
Yeah. But so what happens after that?
So the war happens.
Lady.
War's kicking off, and then I actually found the part. She's been on this world. She knew. Dang, where was it? I think I just scrolled past it. How long she was. She had been there once during the months, and she had arrived at Trantor. So she's been there. It jumps from the war, which I don't know, negligible information, just ships and what we already said. Where
Yeah, he's just trying to give a sense of this is really a big scale war.
and
Really are lots of ships going down. Really is game time.
so back to Trantor, she's hanging out with Mama and Papa.
Mm.
They're talking about how the Great Library's there. How her mom died there. And then basically, she's like, for whatever reason, goes to Papa. Because she realizes she wants to get a message to her dad. Because remember, she knows the true location of the Second Foundation.
Well, yeah.
So she convinces Papa.
Mm-hmm. Well,
'cause
but Papa wants to go.
I mean, yes, but you don't know. And mind you, I
I'm
would
saying
like to point
what he
out.
said is that he wants to go sell for the food, right?
Yeah, but only because she plants the idea.
Okay. It was
Supposedly.
her that. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, he's playing.
I
I know it's
I
hard to
will-
dance around the
we
spoiler.
will dance around the spoiler for a minute. So
Okay.
she has this brilliant idea to
Mhm.
talk to Papa, who's
All on her
sitting
own.
outside chewing on. He's literally tanning and chewing
Uh-uh.
on his cigar.
Yeah.
And cause she comes down for breakfast one day and he's talking about how there's a war happening and his wife's like, "You're a fool,"
Mm.
cause his wife knows the war's happening on this little girl's home planet and she's a child and you're talking about how like all these people are going to be dying.
Yeah,
he's
starving to death.
Yeah, and he's like, "Foundation will be fine. It always fine."
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving him a country
I
accent
mean,
now.
yeah, because he is supposed to be portrayed as.
He literally is like, Mama,
Yeah.
go get the thing, my dog."
Yeah.
So
Wow, shoot by golly.
she goes out there and she's like, "Papa, you know what would be a great idea?" Because now Arcadia is country too. Fuck.
Yeah, Arcadia is
Uh,
assimilated in 3 months.
She's like, no. She goes out. She's like, "Papa, you know what would be a great idea is if you smuggle food to the Foundation because
Mhm.
you will make millions."
Yep.
And he's like,
Because there's big blockades, everybody's starving, they paid a premium. They did this before.
well, it happens every time because the Foundation, like, again, looking at that, thinking about that map I told you
Oh,
about
okay, yeah, yeah.
with the yellow and red, it's very easy for the Foundation to get cut off. Like,
Mhm.
as soon as you take over certain periphery planets, you basically cut the Foundation off where they don't have access to food and water. And I know the Foundation literally
Yeah, they're on the edge
doesn't
of the
have
map.
any metals, but
Mhm.
they also have grown so much that they do depend on exports for food.
Mhm. Imports, yeah.
I mean, imports.
Yeah.
So she's like, if you did that, like the old traders, because
Mhm.
Arcadia has a love of, like, not just history, but also, like, fantastical movies.
Yeah.
She's a romantic, as described by Anthor.
Mhm.
And so, and actually, I think it's a great description of her.
Yeah.
So she's like, you can do like the old traders where they smuggle food in and they would pay him millions of dollars. So he's like, all right, you know what? I want to do it. And his wife's like, you're an idiot. You should send some young dude to do this. And he's like,
Yeah.
why?
I
miss out
still
on the
got
money?
it, Ma.
I got this, Mama. Don't worry. And she's like, well, I'll come with you. He's like, Mama, you gotta stay here and take care of the kid.
Somebody gotta feed the hogs.
So he's gonna smuggle this food to the Foundation, and Arcadia's like, I need to send a message to my dad, but you can't write it down. You need to memorize it, and you
Yeah.
can't write down where I live. You need to memorize how to get there, and I'm gonna
Mhm.
tell you everything right now.
Yep.
And he's like, that
Yeah,
seems
don't
like
say
a
it out
lot.
loud. Don't tell nobody.
Yep, you must forget about it to everyone except my dad.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay.
It's a simple 5-word phrase, 5-word sentence.
Which I have highlighted if
Yeah.
we want to get the exact wording.
When you want to say it now, I mean, it
No,
doesn't
not
spoil
yet.
anything to say
Not
it now.
yet.
Okay.
So he leaves.
I
And
need
he-
a new tractor. That's 5.
That is 5. He actually gets stopped by the blockade, and he's all nervous because they're gonna be like questioning him.
He's shaking in his mud boots.
I never noticed there's a picture of a random ass family in this.
I hope it's a developer of the game.
What? Look at this child.
Mm.
Sorry. So he gets stopped by the blockade, and they're gonna like question him, and they think he's a spy because who the hell would be trying to smuggle food in to the Foundation in the middle of a war?
As an old man.
And coincidentally, on the ship that he gets kind of captured by
Mm.
is that reporter guy that we mentioned. So the reporter guy, like, he hears that this random guy,
The once canceled guy, right?
yeah, the once canceled guy. I
Mhm.
forgot his name. It starts with a J.
It's probably Jimmy Jukebox. Some other silly Asimov name.
Oh, by the way, I found where the fighting is between Calgon and the Foundation, and for 2 months they've been at it. So she's with them at least for 2 months.
Yeah,
I just sworn it's something like 3, but
it might be. That's alright. It's not years,
oh.
you know.
I did find the quote for her trying to get him. The Foundation traders in the old days used to do that all the time. There'd be a war, so they'd sell whatever was needed. bad and take their chances. So that's her convincing him.
Yeah.
And that the Foundation would be willing to pay smuggler prices.
It's Arcadia convincing him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mustn't write anything down. You must remember and find him without anybody's help. And she goes, I want to whisper it to you.
I know. Isn't that funny? She's so scared of the...
Don't repeat it. Don't ever repeat it to anyone. Forget about all about it except for my father. Promise me.
Because the Second Foundation person could be anywhere she found. Anywhere. So she whispers it to Paw, and Papa goes smuggling, and Papa gets caught.
He does. And what's funny is we do end this chapter. She kind of ends with she wondered if she had signed his death warrant. She wondered if she would ever see him again.
That she should basically unalive, as the kiddos say, that she deserves it because she sentenced these two to death, at least him.
So it's cool because we're on this ship and we have like these commanders. They're basically luring the Calgon soldiers into this like trap when they capture him.
Processing.
I'm literally looking because I think I didn't highlight in as much as I thought of this part.
Alright.
That makes me sad. Did I really not? Okay. Oh yeah, well, alright, but because basically the reporter vouches for Palmer, or Palver, and he's like, look, I promise, because basically the reporter walks in, because one of the soldiers is like, did you hear we caught a spy? And he's like, what? And he's like, yeah, he looks like, his name's Pemer Palver, and he's like, Palver? And he's like, yeah, that's the one, how'd you know that? And he's like, I need to talk to him. He's like, I'm positive he's not a spy. He's one of us. And he's like, what? How do you know that? He's like, trust me. Can I question him real quick? And they're like, yeah, that's fine. You can. Because he actually negotiates because the lieutenant's like, why do you think you should question him before I do? And he's like, because I've gotten you really good publicity and I think you should work with me or I can turn the tides on you.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, fine,
bring
whatever.
The media down on you.
Go talk to him and tell me whatever. So as soon as he walks in, he's like, what's the name of the girl you abducted? He's like, this is gonna save your life. And literally he's like, Arcadia Durrell?
Right answer.
And he's like, yes. And he's like, is she okay? And he's like, I swear to God, she's fine. We've been taking care of her like if she's our kid.
Yeah.
She's been eating breakfast, lunch, dinner. She's got a
hog
room
and biscuits and grits.
She's just living a little country life. She has no idea what's happening.
This is a cool visual of this kid just living on a farm on the capital of the once glorious city Coruscant from her Hollow movies, and from her little videos that she would grow up. It's supposed to be high-tech land, and
if
she's
anything
literally
with
chilling
the
on
war
a farm.
happening, it's a great place for her to be just getting fresh air. Anyway.
But what an unexpected thing from all them.
I digress.
Yeah. So he's being interviewed. He says, I got the daughter. She's fine.
So he's allowed to pass through. And then it said that, he's not allowed to pass through. They're like, all right, well, good to know he's not a traitor, but he can't leave now. Why not, says Palver. Asks Palver quickly, because we're in the middle of battle. After it's over, assuming we're still alive, we'll take you to Terminus. So what happens is that, just to recap this battle in like 3 seconds, they had lured the biggest Calgon fleet into like a trap where the Calgon fleet was coming in strong, and they were acting like they were, because it's like 100 and something. It's like 300 Calgon ships versus like 170 Foundation ships. But they've been split off into 2 fleets. So they're like basically luring them into a trap. I don't even know. It's very Spartan-like, where they're like, one group is slowly pulling them in. Yeah. And then they start to like move forward, and it looks like they're going to get into battle. And then another like group jumps in from hyperspace. And I wasn't sure, just as a side note, because there's literally mention earlier in the book how like these calculations are so.
Oh yeah.
How's the baby?
Fine. She's good.
Okay. These calculations, like one miscalculation and you can have thousands of men just like deteriorate.
Yeah.
in space from like messing up the hyper jump or whatever.
Yeah.
And so these guys literally like hyper jump, or I don't know what the word
It's like
is.
what Han Solo's famous thing, like if you miscalculate, you hit an asteroid, basically going light speed.
But they do. They basically show up right behind the Calgon fleet, and like immediately the Calgon people start to freak out. They break formation, they're torn apart, and so the battle's won, and it's like the last major battle between First Foundation and First Foundation and the Calgon army.
Yeah.
So that happens. That's basically
All because of them. Like, there's no extracurriculars, there's no plot twist there. It really was their military destroyed
Yeah.
the Calgon military with just superior tactics, creative, and their weaponry, their ships, which, remember, in Book 1, the whole point was that Foundation didn't have a military. It didn't have any way of defending itself.
No, they
It
had
was all-
a strong they do mention that like in the time that it took for them to like lead up into this battle, they had lost some of like the outer periphery stuff. But they had basically been replenishing their ships.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
now
they hadn't
become
lost any of the serious like main fleet.
Yeah.
Like they really come out of this pretty unscathed.
Yeah. Scathed.
Unscathed.
It's okay.
Oh yeah, in the minds of the dictators of the battle plan, there was a certain volume of space that must be occupied by the Calganian ships. Out of that volume crept the Foundationers into its slip. So that's them like pulling back as the other ones. Like they're positioning them in a very specific spot.
Yeah.
So of 300 Calganian ships, the core and pride of their fleet, some 60 or less, many in a state of near hopeless repair, reached Calgon once more. The Foundation loss was 8 ships out of a total of 125. It was the third day of the year 377. So that's how that ends. That's basically like how the war ends.
Yeah.
But that's the tone of it. So Palver's allowed to go to Terminus, and his visit has 2 things. One, the conclusion of an agreement whereby Palver's cooperative was to deliver 20 shiploads of certain foodstuffs per month for the next year at a war price, without, thanks to the recent battle, a corresponding war risk. And 2, the transfer to Dr. Durrell of Arcadia's 5 short words. So the short words, I actually did not highlight them.
Oh,
That's stupid. But it was, a circle has no end.
Yeah. A circle has no end. And if you remember that they've been trying to look for Second Foundation this whole time, and the only thing they know is that Selden said that the Second Foundation is at Star's End. And that's how in the
On
second...
the other end of the galaxy.
Yeah, the end. But that's how you got in Book 2, where the whole thing about Tizenda, it was like an acronym, like if you Star's End, you can rearrange it to have Tizenda, so that must be where the Second Foundation is.
Yeah, the mule was looking everywhere for it.
Yeah. And the mule did, the conventional wisdom was it's on the opposite end of the galaxy, so just draw a line from Terminus to the other side of, the disk galaxy. So 180 degrees, just a straight line across. That would be the furthest point. So, but then there was other reasons why it wouldn't make sense to be on the core. I mean, on the rim, on the outside of the galaxy. So everybody was kind of confused, and that's why I think Tizenda does sound silly. The character in the second book, when he brings it up, he's like, "What?" But to be fair, all the theories weren't working. Nobody was able to find Second Foundation.
Yeah. The mule found nothing.
Yeah, and so
he
now
found nothing.
You get the cryptic.
He's like the soup Nazi, but for the Second Foundation.
Yeah.
No foundation for you.
Yeah. And now you get the cryptic, a circle has no end.
Yeah. So, Dr. Durrell actually, he understands because he has such a good relationship with his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So he understands the message that she's sending him. So he sends one back, and Pulver's actually very happy to deliver the message back.
Mm-hmm.
And it was only, come back now, there won't be any danger.
Yeah.
So we return to the war at this point, Lord Stenton was in raging frustration. His admirals were left to themselves, and none knew better than the Lord of Calgan that very little time and no further defeats need elapse before he would have to contend with internal rebellion. So he gets mad at his first minister. He's like, you should do more, you're useless. And the minister says, matters have turned out not as I feared, but even worse. If you do not care to listen now, say so, sir, and I shall leave, and in due course deal with your successor, whose first act, no doubt, will be to sign a treaty of peace. I have told you often, sir, that you are not the mule. Are you aware, sir, of who it is that you are fighting? You fight the Foundation, which is never defeated. The Foundation which is protected by the Selden Plan. The Foundation which is destined to form a new empire.
Mm-hmm.
And
Tell him.
He said, because he's like, well, the mule did it. And he said, exactly. He was beyond calculation, and you are not. What is worse, the people know that you are not. While on the other side, the same insubstantial fabric fills the enemy with confidence, removes fear, and maintains morale in the face of early defeats. This idea that the Foundation is protected by the Selden Plan. And so that fabric that he's talking about is this idea that, like, where their men are afraid of this superstitious idea that the Second Foundation or Selden's Plan protect the Foundation, and the Foundation's immune, they all are susceptible to it. So, like, as the enemies of the Foundation, they will become victims of whatever comes from attacking the Foundation.
Yeah, they're superstitious and freaked out. Like exactly. Yeah, they're gonna lose for sure.
You have depended on metal and power, and they have sustained you as far as they could. You have ignored mind and morale, and they have failed you. Now take my advice. You have the Foundation man, Homer Munn. Release him, send him back to Terminus, and he will carry your peace offers.
Yeah, so that's how we can get Munn back.
Yep. So Munn goes back, and the Munn that goes back is not the same Munn that we knew. So Munn that left was a stuttering, insecure...
What are you doing on this ship?
Why me?
Why Wilbur Wabbit?
Introverted. Mouse of a man.
Yeah.
The Munn that goes back is...
He's like, sup, bitches?
Realizes that he hasn't stuttered. He's very confident, and he knew Homer Munn finally knew the truth of the Second Foundation.
That it was him all along?
He actually gets sent back as, like, the peace guy for Calgan, by the way.
What'd that line mean? What do you mean by that? What did you highlight that for?
I highlighted it because this becomes a huge point of contention between him and his friends, because they basically get together for dinner like they had, I don't know how many months prior.
Yeah, all the conspirators.
Prior. Yeah, everyone except
Friends
Arcadia,
reunion.
who's still on her way home.
Yeah.
They all get together for dinner, and Anthor basically starts accusing Munn, because Munn's like, I know where the Second Foundation is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and this is where we get his long explanation.
Yeah.
Pretty logical. He thought it was on Calgan, right?
No.
What did he think? I thought that was one of the... That is one of the...
He thought that the Second Foundation didn't actually exist.
Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry, I forgot about that part. Jesus.
Because what happens is that Anthor, like, they are all basically getting together for dinner and acting like...
By the way, these chapters are beautifully named. The Answer That Sounds... Hold on, I have it here. Oh, we have a pretty good lead here. Shh. There's our dog, everybody.
Ben.
Hold on, because I just love the name. The Answer That... Come on, thing. Oh my god. The Answer That's Satisfied. And then that's what they're talking about here. The Answer That's Satisfied is the name of this chapter, and then the next one is called The Answer That's True. For a little bit of a spoiler.
Yeah. So what happens is that they get together. They're all kind of like happy, and everyone's in a celebratory, you know, the Foundation has won a war, so everyone's kind of in a good mood.
Mm-hmm.
And Anthor gets mad, and he's like, you talk as though we've really won a war when actually we have won nothing but a petty brawl, which has served only to distract our minds from the real enemy. And Mun mentions he hasn't stuttered in months because someone was like, you seem different.
Suspiciously different. You know it's bad when you're so confident that your friends think you must have been mentally hijacked by a superior alien force. Like, nah, Jimmy's too cool. He must have been cloned by the Illuminati.
Anyway, he tells everyone that he doesn't believe the Second Foundation exists, and Anthor basically gets all mad, and he's like, I think we should all do brain scans again.
Mm-hmm.
Because
break out the party trick.
Everybody's like, hey, man, that's cool. That's a cool theory. And he's like, how are you all just sitting here accepting this guy?
Mm-hmm.
He's literally coming in here not stuttering. He's not the same man that I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And I've known him for less time than all of you, because literally Dr. Durrell's known him for 20 years
like,
or some
your
crazy
friend.
shit.
Y'all don't recognize him?
Yeah. So, they all go and do brain scans again.
Mm-hmm.
And Mun is actually the last one to do a brain scan. Anthor's the first to do the brain scan, and they find no difference. Mun tries to be like, look, it's different. And he's like, those aren't the things that we look at. That just means I'm mad at you.
Oh, yeah.
So everyone gets the brain scans. Everyone else is fine. They do Mun's scan, and clearly he's been tampered with.
Yeah.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah. But it
So
doesn't...
they actually knock him out because he gets a little hysterical.
Yeah. But that doesn't prove... We still don't know... well, I don't want to give that away, I guess.
Yeah, I say without intention or personal offense, you lie, you like, that's where he's accusing him.
Because he's like,
lying.
I don't feel any different. Like, I don't, you get the really cool thing again.
Do
like,
you remember Homir Mun as I do, the introvert and librarian who never talked without obvious embarrassment, the man of tense and nervous voice, who stuttered out his uncertain sentences.
Yeah.
So they all succumb, and then, basically, they're like, so Mun can't be. So the Second Foundation's onto us. Mun's been tampered with.
Mm-hmm.
Quiet, Mun. You've been handled.
Yeah.
You've been adjusted by them.
And he just doesn't believe it. Like, how you don't believe it. That's how it works.
Yeah, I don't feel any different. I can't believe it with sudden conviction. You're all in this. It's a conspiracy.
Yeah, so he flips it on them, right?
Yeah. Anthor turned sardonically upon him. It wasn't difficult, you see. I happen to know where the Second Foundation really is. So this is where we get the first table flip.
That's Anton saying that?
Anthor, yeah.
Anthor saying, yeah.
So Anthor's like, everywhere that we ever see anything have to do with the Second Foundation,
Mm-hmm.
Lady Kalia, Arcadia, the war, clearly,
yeah, the mule.
Clearly, the mule, clearly, the Second Foundation is on Calgan,
Yeah.
says Anthor, confidently,
Yeah, sardonically.
sardonically. And
But
he's like, that's it. I have figured it out.
It makes
That's
sense.
why.
Like I said, that's just where most of the psychic phenomena has been happening. It's all on Calgan, so...
Yeah, at every turn we meet with Calgan, nothing but Calgan, the world that somehow survived untouched all the struggles of the warlords for over a century. It's obvious Anthor's eyes were intense. The Second Foundation is on Calgan.
But they get into the issue of...
Wherever they are, they form a tight oligarchy. They must be as well hidden on the world on which they exist as the world itself is in the galaxy as a whole.
I think somewhere he says that, like, one of the dumber things, but I guess just Asimov wanting to say this for the reader of different intelligences, like, but we didn't see them. Like, I don't know, how could they be there? He's like, well, they'd be hidden. Like, they're not...
Yeah.
Come on, you got millions of people on all these worlds.
Oh, yeah, he literally...
It's not going to be like the office of Second
Mun
Foundation.
is like, I was there. I was there just last week.
Yeah.
How could you tell me that they were there and I didn't see them? And he's
Yeah, like
like they don't literally have signs like, hey.
And like, you guys weren't on the planet. Now you're telling me who went to that planet that they were there.
Yeah.
Like, well, yeah. You go to
And
New York City, you're not gonna find the Illuminati HQ.
They don't have a sign that says Illuminati here.
Yeah. So they go, it's must on Calgan. There's secret society on Calgan. It's been protecting them since the days of the first book. Like you said, the warlords, all the way up to now. With, all the way up to the mule, and then all the way up to now. But it would mean that they defeated the Second Foundation, because they just defeated Stenton and his whole big military.
Well, not necessarily. The way he's saying it is like,
They're covering
basically
their ass.
they're the oligarchy, or like they're just a small portion.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're just manipulating things on Calgan.
Yeah, it's dark, but it's thinking that the U.S. didn't win Vietnam, so like the backdoor deal people that made money, like, oh no, the military industrialized complex lost the Vietnam War. It's like, well, no. No, silly. So the oligarchs, the secret foundationers.
He actually relates it to Terminus. He goes, the number of real scientists on Terminus, even on Terminus, can be numbered at less than 1% of the population.
This is perfect. Yeah, he's saying, like, Terminus is the home of the Second Foundation, the tech giant. But still, it's less than 1% that are actually doing the advanced science.
So he says, but now when the search is on once more for the Second Foundation, where is the last place we'll look? Where's the last place anyone will look, right? Calgan. It has to be.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is happening, and he's like, Dr. Jarrell kind of butts in at some point, and he's like, shall I tell you what Semic and I have been doing this past half year? Because at some point it was pointed at him, like, we don't even know what you've been up to for the last half year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're sus.
Yeah. Sardonically sus, I say.
I may give you another reason, Anthor, why I was anxious to remain on Terminus all this time. Because at this point they're kind of pointing fingers like, we can't trust each other.
Mm-hmm. The Spider-Man meme. You're the Second Foundation.
Detecting Second Foundation minds is a little more subtle than simply finding a tamper plateau. And I did not actually succeed, but I came close enough. That the brain is the source of a myriad tiny electromagnetic fields everyone knows. Every fleeting emotion varies these fields in more or less intricate fashion, and everyone should know that too. If I were blind, for instance, I could still learn the significance of photons and energy quanta, and it could be reasonable to me that the absorption of photon of such energy could create chemical changes in some organ of the body, but I wouldn't be able to interpret color. In paraphrasing this quote that I have. So he's starting to get into like this metaphor of like blind men, and this is important in a minute, because he's basically going to tell everyone in this group that Second Foundationers can be attacked using a new thing that he's developed.
Yeah, which is what he was working on with all those arrays.
Yeah.
Working on during the war. It's a sense, so we rely on our hearing or our vision, and like I said, he's picking vision as the most obvious
use their
for
mind.
this one.
So he made this little thing called mind static. It could orient with its stronger field the weaker one of another mind, much as a strong magnet would orient the automatic dipoles.
Yeah.
That's not the way you say that.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, is it? Okay. In a bar of steel and leave it magnetized thereafter. Moreover, it could be made to shift at complete random, creating, as far as a particular mind sense is concerned, a sort of noise or static which makes other minds with which it may be in contact. So, like, it's just gonna actually shut them down.
Yeah. It's gonna overwhelm themselves. He mentions like a blinding light.
Yeah, like it's basically.
If someone's blind, I mean
and you use a light on them, nothing happens.
Yeah.
But to the person that can see, if you put a light to their eyeballs, it's gonna hurt their eyes.
Yeah.
But it was cool because him and Semic had worked on this, but Semic, this is where he had been questioning Semic, and they literally say he helped create blindly, but he had guessed correctly. The old man had a trick or two left. I just thought, because I highlighted it because I was like, man, this old man gets picked on this entire series, and then he helps make this thing.
Yeah, that was me. I'm the et al.
So it's this little box, and he tells the entire crew, like, he's been putting these little boxes and relay things
Mm.
all over the town. So like the mayor's office is protected, and like the house is protected with this mind static machine that'll keep second foundationers from being able to like eavesdrop on them using their minds.
Oh man, so the 3-body author, I forget his name and it's hard to pronounce.
So it wasn't original?
No, I mean, but not that he would act. He acknowledges Asimov as one of his best, any science fiction writer. But they have to do that with the sophons, because they can always be watching. So they eventually develop tech that makes like these little bubbles in little rooms, and then eventually they become so prolific. Like, yeah, anybody needs to have that.
Well, technically, this would protect them not just from the Second Foundation, but from mutants such as the Mule.
Yeah, any mutants that pop up.
Yeah, so
Doesn't mean by any psychic tampering.
This had to be built.
Mm.
So he kind of mentions, he's like, the only thing about this thing that I've made is that it's like in one place. Like, I can't make it portable, and I have no way of like telling you who the Second Foundationers are. I just know we're protected from them.
Yeah.
But it makes it so that like we're kind of stuck, and if we don't want to just live basically like what did he say, like 2 fists up looking in every direction, we still have to find the Second Foundation. So they're like, where is it? And he's like, I know where it is. It's not on Calgon. And they're like, what?
Yeah. How? But the logic was perfect.
The logic was there.
Sardonically perfect.
How could it be?
Yeah.
We have fun, but we don't get anywhere. Space. Maybe all planets are the Second Foundation. Maybe we have
funny.
no planet, just key men spread on all planets.
Yeah, that's
and
what
does
one of
it
my
matter,
theories.
since Darrell says we have the perfect defense?
Yeah. One of my theories, I was like, I know it. It's gonna actually be. It's not any one place. It's all through the stars. Every star is some other stars, end.
So they actually get to, Darrell tells them what Arcadia said. And he's like, Harry Seldon didn't lie, because one of the theories was that Harry Seldon lied, and he didn't actually put them on the other side of the galaxy. It was just a way to throw them off, so that they wouldn't know that they're in Calgon or close by.
Yeah, because Calgon was like a neighbor planet.
This theory is that, they break it down, it's kind of convoluted, but basically the galaxy starts and ends because of the way the galaxy is shaped in the same point.
I just think about it like a circle. So if you take a circle, you draw a dot on the circle, on the edge of the circle, and then you cut it. Well, the end of that line is actually where you put that circle. So terminus. I mean, if you go all the way around the opposite end of a circle, you come back to terminus. You come back to whatever point you started from.
So
maybe the opposite end is, the same spot.
And then, as evidence, he says, you said yourself that if the Second Foundationers were the guardians of the Seldon plan, it was unlikely that they could be located at the so-called other end of the galaxy, where they would be isolated as they could conceivably be, because it would take forever for them to get
Perfect quote. This is one of the most important parts of that. Yeah, he's like, but they're supposed to be meddling in galactic affairs, but you're telling me they live.
Yeah, they're on the other side of the galaxy.
Mm.
So he talks about that, and then they talk about how it comes up that Second Foundationers have probably been meddling with their plans for a while, because he's been working in secret on this mind static thing, and he hadn't told any of the other people, even Semic, who he'd been working with. He didn't really tell him what he was working on. He just asked him to get him the pieces. So there is a quote I have where he's offended, because they're like, we haven't been bothered, and they specifically say molested. So without molestation, who told you we were not molested? You yourself showed that Munn had been tampered with. What makes you think that we sent him to Calgon in the first place entirely of our own volition, or that Arcadia overheard us and followed him on her own volition?
Bars.
It was far more to their benefit to mislead us than merely to stop us. It is their strength, and also their weaknesses when he's talking about their ability to tamper with emotions and minds.
So like he said, it could be from the very beginning.
So he actually tells them, he's like, I have the little device right here if you guys want to see it.
Yep.
And Anthor's like, yeah, let me see it.
Let's see that thing real quick.
Let me see that
Give
thing.
it to me.
So he throws a little cube at him, and he's like, technically, this will only affect them. It won't affect us.
Yeah. You can hit it whenever.
So Anthor's like messing with it, and he's like, can I like, tell me how it works? I don't want to accidentally turn off the defenses on the house or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, no, you can't. The switch is stuck. There's a little knob that when you turn it will like raise or lower the intensity of the static. So he like messes with the knob and nothing happens. And he's like, I mean, it doesn't seem like anything's happening. And he's like, of course, it wouldn't affect us if we're not Second Foundationers.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, however, what I have thrown you is a decoy.
Yeah.
So he takes out of his jacket,
Bum, bum, bum.
same thing, basically, and turns the dial to 11.
Yeah.
And
Turn that
Anthor,
shit up to 11. Literally. Anthor has a bit of an attack.
Yeah.
Anthor doesn't take well to the jamming.
it literally. Wait, I actually highlighted. So, well, I suppose we can take your word for it, but it's certainly hard to imagine that anything was happening when I turned the knob. But naturally, Pelis Anthor, said Darrell with a tight smile, the one I gave you was a dummy. You see, I have another. And with an unearthly shriek, Peleus Anthor sank to the floor. He rolled in his agony, whitened, gripping fingers clutching and tearing futilely at his hair.
Really, the shriek
And
was written.
Anthor twitched
picture of
feebly
shrieking.
once or twice and lay still. He was alive, his breathing racking his body. So when they like carry him to the sofa, and they get him, when he starts to wake up, they get him some whiskey and water.
Yeah.
I think he has like 2 shots of whiskey and a cup of water.
Mm.
He's like, don't, he muttered, don't do that again.
Yeah.
You don't know. You
I'll
don't know.
tell you anything.
Oh, it was a long trembling moan. Yes, he said wearily, I'm a member of the Second Foundation. And that's where in my head, unable to tell Freddy anything,
Yeah.
I said,
it.
called it.
I can feel the call. It's through the force at this point.
I literally came running out of the room, and I was like, did you finish yet? And he's like, no, I have an hour and a half left. I was like,
yeah. And I wasn't talking about the book.
I was so sad.
What? You just got that?
No.
Oh, the book that you couldn't tell me.
No.
Okay. It was pretty funny. And yes, and I knew that she was doing a dance when I got to it. So yeah.
I was so happy when he finally finished the book that I was like, finally.
Mm-hmm. Which was cool for me. I was like, this is cool. So I don't think, by the way, that I got this far. Not that we're done with the recap, but so it was very cool that we've done all 3 now. Not all 3, but
Oh,
three.
you hadn't finished I
don't think I made it.
That's cool.
Yeah, so go ahead. So he got shrieked out.
So
he's literally on the
said
floor
he ends
spazzing,
up
and now
confessing.
he's giving it all up.
We knew
Confessing.
that Terminus and its physical scientists were becoming interested in brainwave patterns and that the times were ripe for the development of something like this mind static device.
Mhm.
We had to stop it without ruining Selden's plan.
Mm-hmm.
Stetton's supposed mistress was one of us. Arcadia followed. We hadn't counted on that. Can't foresee everything. So Kalia maneuvered her to Trantor to prevent interference. That's all, except that we lost. You tried to get me to go to Trantor, didn't you? Said Darrell. Had to get you out of the way. The growing triumph in your mind was clear enough. You were solving the problems of the mind static device. We worked with individuals, not groups. Very low probabilities involved. Lost out. Besides, if control you, someone else that invent device, no use. Had to control times. More subtle. First speaker's own plan. Don't know all angles, except didn't work. It's like passing out, basically.
Yeah.
And then they ask him something, and he's like, oh, what'd you say? Oh, not many. Be surprised. 50? Don't need more. All here on Terminus? 5? 6 out in space, like Kalia? Got to sleep.
Yeah.
So they're asking him how many there are.
Mm-hmm. They said there's 50 people. They're all on Terminus, and there's a few, 5 or 6 out in space. But that's the whole Second Foundation.
Yep, that's it.
He confessed he's being tortured.
So what are they going to do with them?
Eat him.
And how did he figure this out? How did he know Anthor wasn't one of them?
Yeah.
And he said, because Khalees sent him. But I couldn't tell. He was like, Khalees and I had similar thoughts when it came to the Second Foundation, but I couldn't keep working with him because I knew that he was going to end up compromised. I couldn't tell Khalees that, and he wouldn't have listened if I had. To him, I was a coward and a traitor, perhaps even an agent of the Second Foundation.
Yeah.
He was an unforgiving man, and from the time almost to the day of his death, he had no dealings with me. Then suddenly, in his last few weeks' life, he writes me as an old friend to greet his best and most promising pupil, as a co-worker, and begin again the old investigations. It was out of character.
Yeah. Talking about his old professor research partner.
Yeah.
Doing the mental research, basically one of the few people on Second Foundation that's into that stuff.
They had broke up on bad terms.
Yeah, and now he's like, hey, friend, how's it going?
You my best friend.
Because if you don't know that, and you were just knowing that they work together, you just research this as a Second Foundationer, then you think that that's a plausible thing. But he's like, you don't, basically was tipped off like, what?
So everyone's like, all right, so what do we do with him and all of the other ones? And so they're like, well, we can exile them. They can be placed there on this planet that they picked. The planet is saturated with mind static. The sexes can be separated. Shh.
I think our dog is...
Ben, stop. Ben.
What, man? I
Ben,
got you.
come.
Let me go check.
Oh, dang it. Baby woke up.
Bum. Hold on. We are back. Baby is back to sleep. So where were we?
We were talking about... That took a long time to put baby back to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember. Because I was so excited. And
I
then
know.
Ben woke up the baby. So they're talking about what to do with the 50... No, it was the 50-something Second Foundationers that they have discovered.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the ideas is they be placed on a planet, that the planet be saturated with the mind static, the sexes be separated, or better still, they can be sterilized, and in 50 years the Second Foundation will be a thing of the past, or perhaps a quiet death for all of them would be kinder. I don't know.
Basically, execute them all.
Yeah.
Might just be nicer than leaving them to fade out on a random planet.
I mean, like, were they born this way? No. They're pretty sure that they, like, gain their powers through, like, detail. Training.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think it's developed through long training, since there are indications from I hate this word.
Encephalograms?
Yeah. Encephalography.
Encephalography?
Yeah. That the potentialities of it are latent in the human mind, but what do you want that sense for? It hasn't helped them.
Mm-hmm.
So they basically decide on this. Something is decided. They're gonna do something with the... They also have to run it by the mayor. It's not like these guys are deciding. So basically the Second Foundation's discovered, and these people are gonna either die or they're sterilized and will die anyway.
Yeah, but it will be the end of Second Foundation.
Yeah. But Dr. Durrell, it kind of bothering him, like, this has been too easy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they felt like book villains, and he feels like that's not the way it's supposed to happen. The book
villains have become self-aware.
It had been too easy. Too easy. They had fallen, these invincibles, fallen like book villains, and he didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
Arcadia was coming home, and his thoughts shuddered away from that which he must face in the end. Because basically, he's going to corner her. Late one evening, he said as casually as he could, Arcadia, what made you decide that Terminus contained both foundations? Oh, I don't know, Father. It just came to me.
Yep.
What made you decide on Terminus?
The most horrifying sentence in all of these books.
What made her decide? What had made her decide? She had the horrible sensation of something slipping just beyond her grasp. Father, she cried. I knew the more I thought, the surer I was it just made sense. It's no good, Arcadia. It's no good. Intuition is suspicious when concerned with the Second Foundation. You see that, don't you? It might have been intuition, and it might have been control.
Mm-hmm.
But didn't Anther say I was right? He admitted it. He admitted everything. And you found the whole bunch right here on Terminus, didn't you? Didn't you? She was breathing quickly.
Mm-hmm.
What if I am different, Father? What will you have? What will you have to do? Because he's basically
Shoot
saying he's
you
gonna
out
scan her
back.
brain.
Yeah.
I won't have to do anything, Arcadia. If you're different, we'll leave. We'll go back to Trantor, you and I, and we won't care about anything else in the galaxy.
Because she was born on Trantor.
Yeah. Well, the idea also, if
That they're going to go live out in a farm.
if she's been corrupted, he's quitting. He's like, there's no fighting these people.
Yeah.
Like, if they got to me through my daughter, what am I gonna do?
Yeah. So just go farm and live out on their home world where all their memories.
But he does the scan, and everything comes back exactly the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, there was no blips, none of that. Because you could tell the obvious
It was
depression.
a flat line, like
Yeah.
like where there's supposed to be a peak, it'll flatline.
Yeah.
So the house is under maximum mind static, and your brain waves are normal. We really have trapped them, Arcadia, and we can go back to living. So they embrace. They love each other. She asks if they can finally get acknowledgement for what they did.
Yeah, she wants medals,
Yeah.
which was
He
funny.
goes, "How did you know I'd ask to be left out of it?" He held her at arm's length for a moment, then laughed again. "Never mind, you know everything. All right, you can have your medal on a platform with speeches. And Father, yes, can you call me Arcady from now on?"
Which I didn't like.
Very well, Arcady. So that's how the chapter ends. I got kicked for inactivity because I had to read a bunch of quotes.
I'll back out. Yeah, so it's like, I guess he was telling the truth.
Yeah. Yes, we beat the Second Foundation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely no curveballs.
The name of that
Could come of
chapter
that.
was, again, called, what was it? The answer
That sufficed
that felt true.
or something.
Jesus. It's been like 30 minutes since the answer that satisfied, yeah.
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 So, chapter 22. What could possibly come
Back
of
up.
this last little itty bit of the book?
Mm-hmm. One chapter.
The answer that was true.
Yeah. The
An
name of
unlocated room in an unlocated world. That was my favorite opening to any chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Just after all of that
Just
shit.
trolling us because it's been trying to find where this is the whole time.
And a man whose plan had worked.
Mm-hmm.
These are all actual quotes from the book. So, the first speaker is speaking with this student. And they're just kind of in this room. And they're going over a few things. 50 men and women. 50 martyrs. They knew it meant death or permanent imprisonment. And they could not even be oriented to prevent weakening, since orientation might have been detected.
Mm-hmm.
The student asked why they couldn't go with lower people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Why 50 had to die?
he literally said less could not possibly have carried conviction. So
Yeah. 75 would actually the average or the recommended.
75 was had better odds, but they
Mhm.
decided to go with the lower. They gambled a little bit. Never mind. Have you studied the course of action as worked out by the Speaker's Council 15 years ago? Yes, Speaker. And compared it with actual developments? Yes, Speaker. I was quite amazed, Speaker. I know. There is always amazement. I love that quote.
Yeah, when interacting with the Selden plan, when
Yeah, because they're always
recalculating-
comparing what actually happened with the reality with the plan.
Yeah.
Essentially, it was necessary for the men of the First Foundation to be thoroughly convinced that they had located and destroyed the Second Foundation. In that way, there would be reversion to the intended original. We are hidden once more and safe at the cost of 50 men. So why the war though? Because the speaker kind of tells him, he's like,
Yeah.
all right, I mean, you
And
got that point, but
before you get into that, she's moving.
Oh, man.
Baby time.
We are having
I
a rough
think
night.
so. I was watching her for a little bit, but what were you saying? You were saying something
I'm gonna
before a
cry.
baby. You talking about some book or something?
So why did
they have to
the
go to
Foundation
war?
have to go to war with
Yeah.
Calgan? To show that they could beat a physical enemy, wipe out the damage done to their self-esteem and self-assuredness by the mule. So that was the intention of the war.
Because Foundation is supposed to be the next empire, and they get their ass kicked by the mule. So, without all their trickery, without all their, they used to have the religion plots from the beginning, all these little sneaky shits, they literally beat him in a straight-up fight. Military versus military.
Yeah.
That's what they needed.
They needed that little pick me up. But there you are insufficient in your analysis. First speaker to the student.
Yep.
Remember, the population of Terminus regarded us with distinct ambivalence. They hated and envied our supposed superiority, yet they relied on us implicitly for protection.
Yep. You gotta admit, this is the state we are in as Americans, and really the whole globe. Like, you go, yeah, the overlords, and they do this, and they do that, and they go, so you think the whole U.S. will get blown up? I always go, like, these people that try and get you to panic, I go, no, I mean,
that's silly.
They live here. They need us to be the workers, to do the things. They're not gonna, like, let it. You can't both believe in...
They're not gonna blow us up.
Cabals and that they would just let us all get destroyed. So the same with Second Foundation. They were super, how dare they secretly control us and manipulate us. But if there really are another foundation, they are just trying to keep them on Selden's plan too. So that's why you had a bunch of characters throughout this saying that explicitly. Like, I don't know, what's the worst thing that happens? Like, Second Foundation swoops in and saves the day.
Well,
somehow,
so
like, even if we don't know how.
Again, everything from the housekeeper to to even the first minister when he was explaining to Stenton that, like, the Second Foundation
wannabe
was
new empire.
The Selden's plan, whether the Second Foundation existed or not. That's a cool quote I have somewhere highlighted, because he tells him, like, whether the Second Foundation exists or not, because Stenton basically fights him and he's like, they don't exist, so I'm gonna win. And he's like, whether they exist or not, they exist in the minds of the people.
Yeah.
And that means that the people are going to wonder why we're going to war against the Foundation, which is protected by the Second Foundation.
Yeah.
And by Selden's plan. Like,
yeah, which just believing in that is going to make it pretty damn... I don't know what to compare it to, but if you thought that you couldn't get killed or something on the battlefield, or... I guess that, like, there's air support coming. I don't know what to compare, but, like... Because they know they could die. I mean, they all know. It's a bad example, because, like, the people that were saying Second Foundation will swoop in, like, that's not as much reassurance as you would think, because your ship might get blown up still. It's just, at least, your whole civilization won't fall. Because these, But the average person didn't know that they were psychic crazy people, right? They just think it could be anything.
No, they just know they're protected. Like...
They probably just assume it's just like them. Just another version of them.
They just know that they are on the same trajectory with Selden's plan.
Yeah.
And should First Foundation fall, Second Foundation will protect, like...
But it's kind of funny that they think that it'll protect them too, though. It's like, why don't you think... I can't think of another thing to compare to than race. That's going to sound messed up, but, like, if you're worried that your whole race is going to go extinct and you go, at least there is... Let's just say the human race. If they're on Mars, and but the aliens
really... Why would the Mars guys not attack us?
No. So we have a human colony somewhere. If your goal is you just want humans to survive, then you go, all of Earth was destroyed. Really, our whole civilization on Earth was destroyed, but at least human beings, survived somewhere out there in the galaxy, on that other planet. I guess that's how they could think of it.
Yeah.
Right, they're not actually thinking that Second Foundation is going to necessarily swoop in, but at least the Selden plan will be maintained.
They know the Selden plan is
from that other people that they don't even know.
Infallible.
Yeah.
In their minds.
But it really might be the same as saying humanity's not extinct, even though the entire Earth was destroyed and all the humans on Earth. Because we're so sure that there was this other colony of humans somewhere. But so the Second Foundation people want to remove that crutch, that relying on Second Foundation as a backup.
The issue with that crutch is that it actually interferes with Selden's plan.
Yeah, because it's like them knowing that the plan.
We mentioned that quote last talk, but basically it makes it so that they have no urge or urgency or like forward momentum. It slows down the population as a whole, because basically they're like, what's the worst that could happen? Like,
But
Second Foundation will just come in and fix it.
It's along the same logic of why the Harry Seldon like hologram things in the crypt
can't give you all the answers.
I can't just tell you it all ahead of time.
Tell you what the next crisis will be, or how to get around it, and what you should do to.
Yeah. Because it is almost like a spiritual, like a somewhat mystical, like there's something in doing it though.
But Second Foundation knows all the details.
And being embodied though, it's like, because you could say, yes, you could just tell them exactly what to do. Like, why not just tell them? But there's something emergent from people, from individuals, and then civilizations as a whole, that from them doing it and being worried, the unsureness. Like I said, you can't have heroes. You can't actually have an idea of bravery if you know what the outcome is going to be.
Well, they're not gonna be working on moving forward or growing or even worrying about random. I don't know how to
but I mean, you could hear somebody saying, "Why not?" I mean, if you told me exactly what to do and I just did it, and
because they just know, they're just gonna be like, yeah, it'll be fine.
That's what I mean by it's a kind of super rational. Like, it's not. If you told somebody how to make money, like literally, here's what you're going to do all throughout your day. You're just going to follow this plan to make some business and it's going to make money. Like, you just did that all day, but you never had any creative thinking. You didn't do anything. Something's lost, even though somebody could say like, well, what's lost? I mean, they followed the plan exactly. They just woke up every day and did exactly what was on that sheet of paper, their daily tasks. And it's like, Asimov is saying it just doesn't work that way. It's funny because, like I said, he's atheist too, but it is a somewhat religious thing. Like, why doesn't God just come down and make us all know exactly what we should do all the time? We would always, you would just hear a voice in your head that you were always sure was the voice of God, and it says, do this, don't do that. The joke with the little devil and angel on your shoulder, but if you knew for sure, wouldn't you always do the right thing? That's a critique some atheist people make, and I'm like, I don't know. Even Asimov and Harry Seldon think something's lost by just telling you what to do. Exactly.
I agree with that point.
Yeah.
So. What? Timeout.
Timeout. She has... I knew it. Well, obviously, we've been together long enough. I could tell that her brain was distracted because in the video game she has this mind thing that looks like she's carrying a goddamn Wally around. And I just knew, I said, there is something, she's flatlining there on the encephalogragra, however you would say it. The encyclopods.
Encyclopods.
Your
Cephalography.
Yeah.
It's not my fault that it's the most ridiculous word on the planet.
It is not at all, but it's okay.
So, the student basically turns to the first speaker. He's like, that's cool, so we're good. And he's like, unless pointed out the first speaker, further accidents, unforeseen and individual occur, we should be pretty good. And he's like, well, what about that mind static device thing that they have now? Isn't that a problem? And he's like, not really. The First Foundation's left with the mind static device, a powerful weapon against us that at least is not as it was before. He says, good point, but they have no one to use it against. Because the kid said that, like, we left them with that. They didn't have that before.
Yeah, but they think they've killed everybody from the Second Foundation.
The only one they would think to use it on would be a future mutation like the mule.
Yeah, but that's why it's going to be such a oddity in their society that it's going to just fade away. There's going to be no reason to maintain this research or further this research.
Other varieties of knowledge will once again bring more important and immediate returns. So this first generation of mental scientists among the First Foundation will also be the last. And in a century, mind static will be a nearly forgotten item of the past.
Yeah.
So basically, these are also probably the last people to figure this out.
Mm-hmm.
So he tells the student, one of the things I want you to take into consideration is the consideration given to the tiny intermeshings that were forced into our plan of the last decade and a half simply because we dealt with individuals. There was a manner in which Anthor had to create a suspicion about himself in such a way that it would mature at the right time, but that was relatively simple. There was a matter in which the atmosphere was so manipulated that no one on Terminus would it occur prematurely that Terminus itself might be the center they were seeking. And then he said that Arcadia had to be sent to Trantor thereafter to make certain that there would be no premature contact with her father. These two were the two poles of hypernuclear motor, each being inactive without the other. And the switch had to be thrown. Contact had to be made at just the right moment. I saw to that. You'll see why. And the final battle had to be handled properly. The Foundation's fleet had to be soaked in self-confidence, while the fleet of Caligan made ready to run. I saw to that also, said the student. It seems to me, Speaker, that you, I mean all of us, were counting on Dr. Durrell, not suspecting that Arcadia was... And so, basically, it comes out that Arcadia was a pawn of theirs. Right?
Yeah.
It's a good word.
Big words tonight, y'all. We got encephalography. We got pawn.
What have you been taught about tempered
out
plateaus? What are they? Certainly not evidence of the introduction of an emotional bias that can be done without any chance of possible detection by the most refined conceivable
Oh my god. What
brain
word?
analysis.
Okay. Oh my. She done got me.
However, when can an individual be placed under control without showing it where there is no previous emotion bias to remove? In other words, when the individual is a newborn infant with a blank slate of a mind. Arcadia Durrell was such an infant here on Trantor 15 years ago when the first line was drawn.
Remember, Arcadia was born on Trantor.
Yep. She will never know that she was controlled and will be all the better for it, since her control involved the development of a precious and intelligent personality.
Yeah. Alright, you want to summarize that? You want me to reword it?
I mean, in summary, when she was born,
Mm-hmm.
they literally started to...
Yeah, that little flat line you would see on an encephalography on a brain scan.
All of her scans would match because from the moment that she was born, they had already implanted...
The reference, that they're comparing to was already, manipulated. Yep. Manipulating them at birth means you don't have anything to compare to.
She's like 14 and... I guess at this point, like, and a half.
Yeah. Or, no, just turned 15, I think. I think there's a line...
oh, yeah.
Because he says I've been doing that
You're right.
about 15
You're
years. Right. Something like that. Now her mom died on Terminus, I think, too, no? Or on Trantor. I don't know if I'm inferring that, or
no,
they say for sure?
she did.
Okay, so
she
now
I'm
a little suspicious.
I was suspect of that from the beginning, and I'm glad you brought it up, because do you think Second Foundation would have killed her mama?
Yeah, now you planted that in my head, because I literally didn't think that earlier today.
I have been thinking that since literally...
This is why we're going to defeat the aliens or the robots, whatever takes out humanity here. Because we got, even Three Body gets into that. We have a psychic link, the likes of which Second Foundation would be jealous of, he said sardonically. Yeah, I don't know. That does seem a bit above and beyond, but they literally just sacrificed their own people. And like I said last time, we're going to get,
they'll kill anyone for the plan.
Yeah, this is a problem that's going to be pushed.
And
but is Asimov saying it's a good thing to have, elites secretly controlling society? Because
I'm also confused because I thought
that is what the book seems to be
promoting. That her mom dies when she's like 3.
Yeah.
Could the mom have somehow inferred?
Yeah, that exhaustion type psychic control thing, like what happened to Mies, Eblin, and
or just being a mom, could she have somehow caught on that something wasn't quite right with her daughter?
Yeah.
Because like if at 3 you're showing...
If she's just way too smart and way too crazy, and her dad works in researching this stuff.
Her mom knew that the dad was secretly... Like, that was the reason they went to Trantor, so that he could look through all of the same info that Miss Eblings had, like...
Before, you want to hit up what's the very last sentence? Because
Okay.
I was like, we might as well just get all of the points
All
out,
right.
all the spoilers out.
We'll get everything out. So,
Yeah.
they do they touch on, like, what did Selden mean by opposite ends of the world?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
The galaxy.
Yeah.
My bad. And they, in summary, they're basically like, he meant the social galaxy. All these physical scientists
Yeah, looked at it as,
a physical question, when he meant literally, like, if Terminus was going to be
Rome
the
was
beginning,
the center of the world to some people, like, not the molten core or something.
yeah. And
Right.
if Terminus was going to be the beginning of the new world and the Empire was the crumbling end of the old world, then Trantor. Trantor by definition is the other end of the world.
Yeah.
Also by the galaxy. Also by having Trantor be the place that the Second Foundation was at, we would protect First Foundation from attack by the Empire, because there were still 300 years that the Empire could have turned against the First Foundation if they felt like they were crumbling and First Foundation was indeed going to end up being they're thriving and they're going to be the heir to the Empire. So any of the emperors could have gotten cocky and, like, turned on the First Foundation.
Randomly just be dicks.
So Second Foundationers were basically left in Trantor to, like, make sure that the plan is carried out. They had the entire plan written out there, and to make sure that the Empire doesn't turn around and snap back.
Yeah. Which means that Harry Seldon's plan included the development of ancient psychic powers and the controlled collapse of Trantor. Or at least like you say, it is guided somewhat of the Empire in order to give way to its own plan.
Speaking of Rome, by the way, one of the quotes is, "All roads lead to Trantor," says the old proverb, and that is where all stars end.
Mm-hmm.
So, we end with this first speaker looking up at the stars. Nowhere as crowded as in the central regions of the huge cluster of matter man calls the galaxy, with misgivings, but now there was a somber satisfaction on the round and ruddy face of Preem Palver, first speaker.
Mm-hmm. So I'm sure the
and
names
then
get lost.
once again, my brain said,
Yeah,
not necessarily called it, but somewhat called it.
That Palver, that's Papa. That's the old, just country simple man. He's just a simple farmer.
Yeah, I didn't know
happens
he
to be
was
in the
going to
right
be
place at the right time.
literally the first speaker.
Yeah, and maybe part of Second Foundation, but not the head.
Yeah, I didn't know he was going to be. I didn't think that they would literally risk the head. I mean, I know that the first speaker had gone against the mule, so I knew that they weren't afraid to send the first speaker to do things, but I felt the mule is literally the mule. Like, that's...
Yeah.
And the first speaker even said in his speech to the mule that he felt he had to be the one to kind of face him, because he had kind of miscalculated the mule, and as a result a bunch of bad shit had happened.
Yeah, he felt responsible.
How's she doing?
She's good.
Okay. So I kind of understood the confrontation between the first speaker and the mule, but the first speaker just run around with Arcadia, and like, I was like, all right, I kind of get it. This is a big plan. You really wanted to make sure this went off without a hitch.
Now I do wonder, writing wise, like, because it just hit me. I was like, I mean, what are they gonna do? He's literally can psychically control people without them even knowing. Like, what could happen? In a funny way, besides like accidents, literally a ship just blows up or something, which they make a whole little paragraph to point out, like, it's just not possible with the fail safes in place.
Oh, is that me?
Yeah, that is you. Look at that. So yeah, so the head of this mysterious, still elusive. I mean, I guess not. It's on Trantor. We just don't know where.
It's in the library.
Yeah, right. I mean, it said unknown realm, I guess, is what I was thinking of. Like, yeah, I guess we don't technically. They say explicitly it's in the library. I'm like, of course it is, because like they make a whole point about it being freaked out going over there, and it still looks beautiful and is maintained. which is funny for my comparison to Alexandria, like Asimov playing with like, what if Rome, the knowledge of the ancients never was lost, which is kind of a myth according to modern, research. There's a great video on Esoterica on YouTube
We
here.
were naturally able to protect our headquarters, and on all the planet, the Imperial Library and the grounds about it remain untouched. This was well known to the galaxy, but even that apparently overwhelming hint passed them by.
Yeah, okay. So it is explicitly. Yeah.
It was necessary to arrange to have a normal Foundation girl defeat the tremendous mutant powers of the mule. Surely such a phenomenon might have attracted suspicion to the planet on which it had happened. It was here that we studied the mule and planned his ultimate defeat. It was here that Arcadia was born and the train of events began that led to the great ruin, the great return to the Selden plan.
Yeah, which is really great. It adds to the death of Eblin. Like, he was going to say, here.
Yeah.
Like, it's right here. We're
And
in it.
He gets killed.
Yeah. But that's her grandma. So her grandma was psychically manipulated. Arcadia's grandma was psychically manipulated to kill him.
Mm.
Because why would she? I mean, I get that she could have chosen, but she's literally in their HQ. I'm going to assume she was psychically guided there.
I have a feeling she was psychically guided because she out of nowhere starts carrying the gun. And it's hard to know if the mule said he never went into her mind.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, yeah, he didn't, but yeah.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, that's so funny.
But
that's a cool little dynamic too. Like,
could a
she was
couple things have
violated
been
by them.
could a couple things have been nudged or laid out or made a little more obvious by
By
the
second.
second foundationers, because she ends up being way suspicious of the mule, and it's hard to say whether it was because she was legitimately onto him, or at this point if the second foundationers, because I imagine the second foundationers were all the like farmers and stuff around them.
Yeah. Just a bunch of country bumpkins that are secretly in the know.
And someone in like a random room.
Yeah, and then they just peel off into the library. Like, it's funny, they have to actively work these farms.
Well, that's the thing.
Hmm.
Sorry, I know I'm not supposed to do that. So her and oh my god, what was her husband's name?
Trantoria.
I forgot his name.
No, I don't know. Mama.
Huh?
Mama.
No, Beta's husband,
Oh, damn.
Trevor or something.
Damn, that sucks, yeah. I forgot.
Basically, they used to work the farm more, and Miss
Eblin, right?
Miss Ebling and the mule were just hanging out in the library.
Yeah. I'm just saying the second foundationers, like you said, in order to keep this all up.
Yeah, they gotta just be the random farmers and shit that are left on Trantor.
Around the spooky, haunted library, and they just fade into there when they need to.
I mean, probably only a couple of them go in there.
Yeah, I mean, that's true too. How big you think? You're talking hundreds of people?
I think it is similar to Foundation 1 in that some of them know and have access. Like, you have the students that are probably in some type of similar situation. Not probably, I think that's actually mentioned, and I could probably find it. I just don't feel like it right this second.
Yeah.
But I know they talk about the students where they're basically in this isolated. They're not allowed to interact with the universe for I don't know how many years or until their schooling is done. Except for these students that are decided that they're going to be kind of like apprentices to be the future speakers.
Yeah, that's who we're following. Right?
Yeah, that's who we're following. And so he has to like unlearn some of the stuff he learned.
Unlearn all you have learned.
Basically. Dang.
You got distracted by a Yoda?
I just lost my entire train of thought.
Really? About his training, about the guy, and he's there, and he was a farmer guy.
I don't think everybody goes into this building either often or if all of them go in at all.
Yeah, that's true. It is the Holy of Holies, is how it's described
Yeah.
at one point.
So like
Which
really,
was the part of the temple that
it's-
only the high priest would ever see, and once a year. So maybe him using that term is to say like it's incredibly rare and only for the very top
yeah,
of the Second Foundation people to actually put eyes on the Selden plan with all the little red marks.
yeah.
all the
Not
little-
everybody's seeing the whole plan.
Yeah.
It also defeats the purpose of the plan. Even if they are Second Foundationers, it's not good for so many people to know the
Because-
intricacies
yeah.
of the plan.
Because they're also reworking the plan, or at least, yeah, they are, adding things to it. It's a living document to them. So you don't have the same complacency that you could, other people think the Selden plan is a finished document. A finished, recipe, list of actions that are going to
I don't
happen.
know how that makes sense to anyone, but whatever.
I think
How?
people think, yeah. Trying
How?
to think of a comparison that the normal people
Yes,
think.
I wrote an entire math equation for
For macro scale, like what's going to happen.
Sir. Sir.
People
I'm not
say
even
now,
good at math.
oh, this guy's gonna be, new Caesar, or this gonna, or oh, people always compare. I told you the funny meme I saw. It's like researchers say that the fall of Rome was caused by whatever you want it to be, or whatever fits with your worldview. Like some people say it was economics, some people say it was immigration, some people say it was too much military, some people say, some people debate it, but it's like, yeah, you get to feel good because it's just whatever researchers say it aligned with your bias. But I'm saying people do that even nowadays, like these archetypes, these parallel lives, or these kind of characters pop up, these warlords, these generals that end up taking over. There's only a few ways a country can go down at the macro scale, the specifics get crazy, but it's economy, invasion, corruption. That's about it. You don't think that's predictable? You think the Southern
yeah.
Plan's more specific than that?
Yeah. It seems like it.
Like-
Because they literally predicted everything. Like they had put into plan, and they put into motion, corrupting an individual.
Yeah, his daughter.
Yeah. And having an entire war start, and
Yeah. But would you say in the beginning it was create a religious aura around this technology?
I do think yes. Like the
'Cause
steps
that's
are
pretty vague. But like you said, the mule you think is going to keep messing up basically the plans, the steps in the plan? Because it's
Well-
going to be increasingly connected to...
It'd have to be
important
another
individual.
mutant.
Yeah.
I am wondering what's gonna happen in book 4.
Yeah. No, of course. I know, I kind of don't know where they go. Like I said, I thought these
It
three
will-
were a connected trilogy, but like I said, it's really 7.
It's 7 with 2 of them being a prelude and a forward.
Super, I hope, was on purpose-ish, is that the Second Foundation people, they're not gods, they're not... But he says, like, oh, it's done now? And he's like, yeah, because XYZ. I'm like, you guys are the ones that did a great job explaining that there is no such thing as, like, something being done. Like, your own fitness or financial stuff, like, you're not done. Everything's it requires maintenance and upkeep and...
Yep. Well, he
like I
does
said,
say
it's a
that.
constant living thing. Yeah, he says it earlier in the book, but at the end of this, he's like, yeah, should be good now. Because, like, he gives an air like, yeah, I think we said it, we're straight. No worries now. And of course, knowing there's 4 more books, like,
I just saved your life.
something worried. Thank you. We're down by 8, though.
Mostly my fault.
No, mine too. I'm playing pretty bad. After our 12th baby attack.
Listen, those baby attacks are... Wow, what got you?
In the below.
Below?
Yeah. But they did a great job with the plot to it. I know, like you said, you could see some of it coming. But the whole out of nowhere mule introduction with the psychic powers and all that, I'm like, He's playing with it well, and it's gonna be that theme. Plato's Republic. Plato, like, it's anti-democratic. The Second Foundation is not an egalitarian. What the fuck? Why? Like, she's running a test, I think.
It's just I don't know why Nest does its test at like.
Nest does a test at 11:12 at night.
Yeah.
Huh? I'm no Second Foundation man.
I don't know if I can like move it.
I would assume. That's crazy. That was a little jump scare. But anyways, they're trying to hack my brain because I'm onto them.
No, onto you.
Yeah. When that line really was chilling. That's such great. When like good author, like there's nothing scary about the line. That just a jump scare reminded me of it. Like some things in horror are just scary. But what's really hard to pull off is her saying like, I don't know, it just came to me. It's like, oh my god. Because the writing is like, we're kind of like, the end of the book, like, kumbaya, everything went well. So, you're just kind of like, that part of a book when it's done, the plot has been resolved, but, you're just saying bye to the characters. And then she drops that atom bomb.
I feel bad for her dad because I think deep down he knows it don't make no sense.
That she's manipulated? I think he believes in the technology, though. Especially having worked on it for so long and that being the angle he knew to take.
But he knew shit wasn't adding up.
I know you think we'll follow them. I mean, we're going to follow her probably for sure.
No.
In the next book, no?
Nah, it's got to be old or dead for the
Really?
next one.
Oh, well.
It seems like we jump like 100 years every time.
Yeah, like we said, not on this one. We're picking up book 3.
This book was how many? 400 years?
No, direct, because he literally got captured. It wasn't that long because 5 years. That's right, because he had been captured by the mule in book 2, and then in this book, I forget her name, Pritchard, right?
Yeah, Pritchard's dead though.
Yeah, but I'm saying he was in book 3 in the beginning. This book's in the 2 parts.
Yeah, but there's a jump between.
Yeah, part 1 of book 3 and
part 2 of book 3.
Yeah. I'm just saying, but maybe the next one opens up with. There's only 4 years between the end of book 2 and the beginning of book 3.
We just gonna have to find out.
Yeah. I'm hitting her with math. There are all kinds of flat lines on that Excelography.
What's it called?
Excel sheetography.
Tampering plateaus.
Yeah, you're plateaued.
Tampering plateaus found.
Well, you did great, and you really did find a bunch of the best quotes that I was like, yes, that's what I was thinking of.
I try.
Where I get remember it. Should we be backing out? What do you think? Or do we keep talking?
No, we can do one more.
Okay, because there's tons of cool ideas. I know it's a little rough with the baby attacking sleeping.
Attacking is sleeping. I heard. Just wondering. No, I'm good. Yeah, I got basically those were all my best quotes. One thing you
wanted to bring up, I forget.
There's something I wanted to bring up.
I thought so.
At this time
this time it's been removed. It's been flatlined.
There's tampering.
It's been tampered. We're gonna use that.
I have been
use this as a code
adjusted.
Word to make fun of people. Yeah.
The baby has adjusted.
Yeah.
I'm under control.
The baby's adjusted you. This is the opposite. She's not being manipulated at birth. We are. We're being mentally hijacked from the baby since birth.
Sweet Lord.
I think that static field thing's gonna come up in the future books.
I feel like it has to, because Second Foundation, that's one of the variables that they're like, they didn't have that before. Is that gonna be a problem?
Yeah, but it's interesting because they pitched
not
the
a
whole
problem, barely an inconvenience.
Yeah, they pitched the whole thing about this whole psychic power thing isn't actually woo woo. It was a basic thing. This actually came up the other day with Mom and Dad. Remember I was saying like, scientists really don't know. The woo woo people hijack a lot of shit, but there really are mysteries concerning how butterflies migrate and certain birds talk to each other and all this. And people propose maybe it is some sort of field, some sort of field that can go through their brains. And, we might call that, or at least it would seem like telepathy. It would seem paranormal, but really it is just a normal electromagnetic field. Because I don't think Asimov's introducing a whole
No, they
metaphysical
actually
plane.
they break down the entire. It's like an organ. It's something in the brain that you can exercise that picks up on like changes in the
Yeah, same way you can put magnets over people's heads to
Yeah.
jam them up. I don't remember people doing it on purpose to like stimulate themselves. That fad, I forgot all about that till I said it. Oh man, that was like 2017, 18 or something.
People are doing what?
You can put magnets over your head and stimulate it. You could buy some shit on the market, which was like super when we were at school. Super ahead of theoretical neuroscience type of stuff. And then you get a consumer grade, like people were jamming their brain. They were shooting fucking electrical impulses into their head.
What's the point of jamming your brain?
I know people critique all the Adderall people and all that. I'm like, well, they probably were hanging around these guys, and it seems a lot more normal to just do a pill instead of the magnet on the brain. It can do everything from just being funny, like you won't be able to talk right. You'll literally start like you'll hit that center of the brain.
That's freaking terrifying.
Yeah, I know. But other ones I think were to like not feel tired or mood different things. I forget how it worked. But I'm saying that's what he's going with. Like it's still just normal neuron interactions. It's just the field is larger than we're used to. Whereas one neuron is affecting the, in the brain, it barely even detectable outside of the scalp. Like I was saying, you got to do all this nowadays, the EEG things and all that on your head. What does EEG stand for again? You remember?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
It's your favorite word in the middle.
Oh my god.
Oh, I just got hit by a mine of the same type as mine as I threw it down. That's hilarious.
Electroeucalyptus.
Electroencephalography. Easy
What's the G
peasy,
for?
barely an inconvenience.
Graph.
But the point is, yeah, I don't think he's introducing like.
Wait, what's the G for?
We have spirits, graphy. You
What?
made
EEG. Where the last the E and the G are just a breakup of a long word.
yeah, I'm on.
That's one word.
I know.
Why isn't that just called the EE?
We tried to trick you with it.
Obviously.
It's because when you said something like the brain map, I was like, that is literally what it means. These people are,
Yeah.
I always complain about that.
I cheated. One of the quotes, I changed the word to brain scan.
Wait, you could change? You mean like a note or something? You wrote a note?
No,
Oh, when you read it. Yeah, I know. That's what I'm making fun. But the whole point was that humans could always do this, and Second Foundation / Harry Seldon must have implemented it, which isn't technically confirmed. Do you think Harry Seldon had that? Do you think
the ability to.
No, well, do you think that it... I know, that's a super cool theory. Harry Seldon was also psychically manipulating people like our young man in the very beginning.
Well, I have a feeling that the prelude and the forward
Oh, yeah, that's true.
all revolve around Harry Seldon's character
Probably.
and his
It does
machinations.
shed a light where like you could read it again wondering that whole court scene, or people being manipulated at that court scene where they're like, that's treasonous, you're crazy, man, for saying that the empire could ever fall. Who would ever say such a thing?
Oh, I forgot
If you were a
that
patriot.
we literally meet him with that other kid.
It was also like a farmer. Remember his dad's tobacco farmer?
Oh, that's cool foreshadowing.
Yeah.
I wonder if Harry needed him in case he needed to help set up the next guys when.
Yeah, to like live like that or think like that or the cover of that. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, you would at least know how tobacco farms work.
I feel bad. I don't remember. But what happened to that kid? Do you remember what happened?
No, he was
It's just irrelevant. We
writing.
just jump
He ends
ahead.
up writing Harry Seldon's like autobiography.
Oh, that's
or
true.
something.
Yeah. How is he not a Second Foundation man? That's pretty funny. But so we don't know for sure when these powers kicked in, when the ability to do this kicked in.
No.
Definitely doesn't seem like it was. I mean, it for sure was not common or a thing during the Empire. This is not Imperial tech.
Well, that we know of. Like, if Harry
That'd
Seldon...
be crazy.
I don't think it was.
Mm.
I just like to
I know. You never know
keep the
for
door
sure.
open.
Mm. Who got you? I got him. Because if it was developed later, like Second Foundation was something else, and then they developed this, and they decided that's how they would, that would be their thing. Like how atomics were the
look,
tech for
it's been
first.
like centuries since the Second Foundation was formed, and we know that they had a plan, and we know that they had a mission. So it's not crazy to think that they've been developing this.
Yeah.
I just also don't think it's crazy to think they weren't already developing this in preparation, because I don't know if you remember in book 1, Harry Seldon, like, basically they tell him that they have to move everyone in like 6 months to Terminus.
Yeah.
And he's like, don't worry, we've been preparing this for like 2 years or some crazy shit.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me if a group of people that were, like, if he had already separated and allocated the people for Terminus.
Yeah.
Why would he not have already been training and
It's psychics, yeah. Trying to work on developing that skill.
Yeah, why wouldn't he already have them separated and filtered out and already working and developing those skills, so that by the time he dies...
When you said that, I got a
if
mild
he died at all.
chill. Yeah. Who, Seldon?
I don't know. Just a little...
No, that is interesting.
Just a little something to throw out there. I mean,
he
I
says
know that...
undead, I think, in one of the thingies, but...
Yeah, I have a feeling he died.
Yeah.
I don't... So far, immortality is not one of those things that's...
Yeah, and I think it just goes against his mythos, like, of just how
It
this
wouldn't make
universe
sense.
works. Like you said, it is about people sacrificing themselves and the legacy, and we're really passing the baton, and like lighting the next flame of some generation to... I don't think, like you said, I don't think you would want to play with
It doesn't...
people being immortal. But then again, I bet you nobody predicted the psychic turn. So, who knows? What was I gonna say? You had me down something. You said sparked. I guess just that it's convenient. Like, this is the issue with all of it. Like I said, time travel and psychic stuff. It then makes it so everything that ever happens in your story, you can view it through that light.
I mean, that was kind of why I was like, alright. I mean, if everybody, like you, I was just suspicious of a lot of people from the beginning, because I was
which makes
like,
it fun. When you zoom out even more, you go, I mean, he knew, he was already preparing for the off-world thing, because he implanted the idea in them to send them off to Terminus. Like, that is pretty convenient, and they pass it off like, yeah, they just... they just wanted to get rid of him. Or hedge their bets, like, in case it was true. Send him away. But that does seem like a pretty clear thing that Seldon would want to have happen. He wants to have it happen, and his legacy becomes psychic manipulators. So, it is interesting to wonder if he was manipulating the Imperial advisors that
we do have,
allowed it.
I mean, in a funny way, we do have, it was like weird the way he just got them to agree with him. Like, he said it was because he was a psychologist, but the way that he got them to send everyone to Terminus to begin with.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, oh, and by the way, you only have 6 months, and I'm already packed.
Yeah, like, it's okay.
Like you said, like, well, that's because he predicted it. That's the whole point of Seldon. It's like, I know, but it's also exactly how it would go.
Or is it because he's psychic?
If he was psychic, yeah. So,
I like it. We're going to find out.
I think it's interesting, but I also think it's a fair critique. Like, once you open that, well, now everything...
now everything's
I guess
susceptible
clones.
to it.
Cloning does this too.
I
like,
was thinking...
Actually, I'm a clone of Harry. Like,
I was thinking also, like... Because we have interesting situations where characters didn't necessarily want to do certain actions until they were, like, forced to, in quotation marks, or they felt that there was no other option.
Our
Like
traitor Mallow, I
technically
think.
he didn't want to get involved. He ends up getting involved.
Yeah.
He has a couple people pushing him.
Is that who you're thinking of, Mallow? That's
Mallow
funny.
was the one I was thinking.
We're
where
psychic.
he could have been kind of nudged by Second Foundation people.
Mm-hmm.
Funny enough, Hardin maybe even also. Like his decision to take over the... Like it's kind of funny because you have a character that takes over everything by force out of nowhere, and then he doesn't use force ever again.
Yeah.
So like, was that out of character, or was it out of character for him to no longer...
But force with no bloodshed, right? I think that's what it is.
Like the day that he ends up basically taking over the council or whatever.
Yeah. But again, it's like pulling a gun, but he still didn't shoot anybody.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure they said no
I don't think there was
violence. He's
yeah.
with the whole thing with no violence, like last refuge, blah 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 blah. And some Asimov fans just triggered there. I just said blah 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 blah. Too.
What?
Violence is the last refuge of the ignorant, right? And I forget.
Only dumb
can't
people
believe-
use violence.
Yeah, exactly. Translated. It's called a brain scan, and only dummies use violence. And also
Welcome
the
to my
farmers
TED
are in the
Talk.
Illuminati. Don't look.
Everyone's invited. We can all pronounce the words.
Yeah.
My mom brain in here for it.
Yeah, the late night mom brain.
The late night Friday night mom brain
And
is
Papa
pretty fried.
keeping up with you. Yeah.
Mama.
But I guess any closing thoughts you got? I'm trying to just think.
I'm like
I'm very excited.
really excited for book 4.
I'm very excited.
Funny enough, I started a parenting book,
Mm-hmm.
and
Now you want to join a parent foundation?
no,
Mold the youth.
it actually reminded me a lot of Foundation like things, because it's talking about how children are molded, and how, I don't know, it's just funny.
It's just outside cultural. I mean, like cultural meaning, like even in your own house.
Well, not just that, it's like how all these just like moments that they're like survival moments, they're called in the new
No, and the new
The
jargon
new
to sell
jargon
books
or
and
whatever.
keep people updated. Yeah.
But basically it's like when your kid's throwing tantrums, or when like you're just trying to get somewhere and you're like late and your kid doesn't want to get dressed, and you're just like, we just need to get there, we'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
So that they call these moments like survival moments, because you're really just trying to get through and survive the moment.
Yeah. I love the fucking power creep in the terminology used by these women. Like,
I
it's
know.
literally people get killed in professions, and just not even just people, men and women too, like all over the world. Actual survival moments. But like, oh my god, when Chandler didn't put on his jacket this morning, it was a survival moment, let me tell you.
Listen, though, I get it. There have been times where I have been in a meeting and the baby's
Yeah.
screaming or crying, and like all I can think about is like, we just need to get you to calm down, get through the meeting, and then we can take a minute to like
Yeah. It's just their language always, I think, is what makes some of the boomers dismiss them sometimes. Like, it sounds so dramatic and so
yeah.
over the top, and people go like, all right, they just tune out, they go, whatever.
But anyway,
Yeah, go ahead.
the
It's
point
related
is
to
that
Foundation because
these hard moments that your kid goes through can literally be moments to help build their brain, and
Mhm.
like I forgot how I literally, before the third time the baby woke up, I had this whole thing on how it was connected.
Oh no. Ironically, your thought didn't survive the moment.
Yeah. Oh, well, just this connection of like the right side of the brain. I don't know. I've lost it.
No, I mean,
I've
I'll
lost the
tag
plot.
on. Maybe I'm making up my own thing here, but like, I thought when you were explaining to me earlier the left brain, right brain, the thing that they were getting on, and don't worry, they're real neuroscientists. They're just using popular lingo. That's the angle I thought this was gonna go. That really second and first foundation were going to be the same thing.
They kind of
And
are.
but no, even technologically, like they were just going to go to war. It'd be survival of the fittest, but where you rig it, where it's two of your own types. Like, I don't know, if we find out that a secret group was behind, American economic power and Chinese, and everybody's going, oh my God, who's going to win? Oh my God, and 200 years from now we go, oh no, the Chinese won, they rule everything. But the people, the overlords who were pulling strings go, I mean, we won. Like, we were just forcing a Hegelian dialectic, a conflict between two things that we want. Like, either outcome is okay with us. So that's what I thought he was going to push. Second Foundation was going to be their enemy. Remember, that's what we both thought too. In a funny way,
they weren't sure if that was what was going to happen.
Yeah,
like,
the
when
Foundationers
when the Civil War
that
was going to happen, they knew that technically there was a chance that they were going to lose against the Traitors, because the Traitors were Foundation based. So it would be Foundation versus Foundation.
Yeah, you're saying early First Foundation Traitors versus the oligarchs, basically.
Not
on
early.
Terminus.
It was actually Beta's generation.
Yeah. Okay.
Because that was exactly what was going to happen before the mule showed up. The Traitors were basically getting together to have a civil war.
Yeah, that's right.
And Selden comes on the screen, and he's like, "So you guys are at a point where you're gonna have your first civil war. That's legit a civil war."
Yeah.
And they were like, "No, we're not. We're being attacked by this freaking mule.
Yeah.
Why does he have it wrong?"
Yeah, that's right.
And they're like, "Y'all were planning a civil war?"
Yeah,
and
exactly.
they're
And
like,
like, yeah, actually, that's crazy.
Yeah.
This Selden shit's for real.
But they end up, I'm like, Selden was right, and then they just want to say he was wrong and whatever because of the mule. But the mule wasn't accounted for because he was a mutant.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. Actually, fully grown, spindly, strange man. But yeah, even that though isn't super what I mean. I mean, it is a little bit that they would go off. It's America versus England, the British Empire. It's like, oh no, we've lost. But if you believe whatever spirit you think was behind British innovation and empire, I mean, there's maps that show like our bases around the world compared to the British bases, and like, oh no, the Roman I mean that too though. Oh no, the Roman Empire fell to be picked up by Britain. As oh no, the British fell, but really the U.S. And there is a direct civilizational, like ancestry there, both in thoughts and even how we run things. Even the look, even like the actual courthouses and all that being built in the Roman style. So that's what I thought he was going to go with, which isn't as creative. Obviously, I'm like, yeah, this angle's totally different. So we went from that of just, a fight between two types of the same civilization to now we are playing with that whole Plato's Republic idea. Elites making it look like the average person is in control while they're secretly pulling things.
Christ.
Don't worry. Oh no, she's moving.
Well,
I know. I think we got it all. We don't really know what to expect for book number 4. And let's call it there.
It's been fun, y'all. I had a pee so bad.
We'll see.
Like,
She's
subscribe.
Moving. Baby is moving.
Baby time.
We gotta go. Bye.